Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Cabbage Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Fuses with Rimuru Tempest. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Chapter 1. Overflow. The sun was setting over Dagoba Beach, painting the sky orange and red. The beach wasn't sandy and nice. It was covered in huge piles of old, broken things, rusty cars, smashed fridges, tangled wires. It looked like a giant junkyard. In one small area that had been cleared, two people stood facing each other. One was All Might. Even though he looked thin and weak now, not like his strong hero form, he still felt important. He stood tall. The other was Izuku Midoriya, a boy with messy green hair. Izuku was shaking. He felt amazed to be near his hero, but also scared and very, very tired. He had worked incredibly hard for 10 months to get ready for this moment. Sweat stuck his hair to his forehead. "Midoriya, my boy," All Might said. His voice wasn't loud and booming like usual, but it was serious and heavy. This power, one for all, isn't just strength. It's like a torch, passed from one person to another to fight the darkness. It holds the wishes and sacrifices of everyone who had it before. He looked straight into Izuku's wide eyes. "Now it's yours. Hold out your hand." Izuku's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. This is it, he thought. All the pain, the broken bones, the endless work. It all led to this. His dream, held by his hero, was right there. "I'm going to be a hero. I won't let him down." He reached out his hand. It shook badly. Everything else faded away, the junk piles, the sound of the ocean. All he saw was All Might and the single golden hair All Might held. The hair, filled with the power of 8 heroes before him, floated slowly down. It landed softly on Izuku's palm. A small shock, like a tiny spark, zipped up his arm. He felt it, the first touch of the huge power waiting inside. He braced himself, remembering how this power had broken his bones before. Then the air ripped apart. It wasn't a normal sound. It was a horrible tearing noise, like fabric being shredded, coming from behind a stack of old, rusty refrigerators about 20 meters away. A jagged hole, like a wound, hung in the air. Inside it swirled crazy, wild energies, sickly purple, bright green, and blinding white, crackling like bad lightning. Strange, whispering voices seemed to come from the hole, making the hair on Izuku's neck stand up. The light around it bent weirdly. "What?" All Might's head snapped towards the hole. His eyes widened in shock and worry. He moved instantly, putting himself between Izuku and the strange tear. He held out a hand like a shield. A villain's quirk? Teleportation? But this feels wrong. Like space itself is sick. Before either could do anything else, the wild energy inside the hole lashed out. It wasn't aiming at them. It was like a dying animal thrashing. The chaotic energy whipped forward blindly. It didn't hit All Might or Izuku. Instead, it crashed directly into the stream of power flowing from All Might into Izuku through the hair. One for all, a pure power of heroes, smashed into the wild, broken energy from the hole. There was no loud bang. It was a silent disaster. The bright gold power and the crazy static mixed together violently. A blinding white flash exploded in front of Izuku's eyes. He didn't just see it, he felt it deep inside his bones and the place where his new power was settling. It wasn't just the huge, familiar pressure of One for All. Something else was forcing its way in. Something huge, old, and very much aware. It tangled up with his new power like roots digging into dirt. The feeling of this other thing was terrifying and overwhelming. Izuku panicked. "It's too much. This is wrong. All Might." But the scream stayed trapped in his head as everything went dark. At the exact same moment, in a different world full of magic and monsters, Rimuru Tempest felt the familiar pull of teleportation. He was the great slime and a demon lord, traveling quickly from his city, Tempest, to a forest nearby. Magic flowed around him, carrying his slime body easily. He was thinking about trade deals with the dwarves. Suddenly, the magic flow snapped. He wasn't just stopped, he was violently ripped away. A huge, strange force, nothing like the magic he knew, yanked him off his path. It felt like being caught by a giant, invisible hook. There was no travel. Just the awful feeling of being torn apart and into a whirlpool of screaming, crazy energy. His mind, usually calm, felt like it was tossed in a stormy sea. What's happening? A trap? Is it Clayman? No, this is too strong. It feels like the world is breaking. Great Sage, help. But his trusted helper, the Great Sage, only sent back broken messages. Interference. Location lost. Energy unknown. Danger. The wild energy from the rip in Izuku's world, mixed with the unstable power of the newly passed One for All, created a perfect storm. It needed somewhere to go, something to hold it. Rimuru's essence, his mind, his core, his very self, was thrown into this storm. He wasn't a whole slime anymore. He was like raw energy ripped from his body. The storm found the only thing nearby that could hold such wild power. Izuku Midoriya, who was right then receiving One for All. Rimuru wasn't pulled to Izuku, he was smashed into him by a terrible accident across worlds. Izuku didn't just fall down. He collapsed inward. The two floods, his new, messed up One for All power and the huge, invading mind of Rimuru, crashed together inside him. His nerves screamed. It felt worse than any pain, like his body was being torn apart and rebuilt wrong. His eyes saw only blinding white or total blackness. He heard All Might yell, "Young Midoriya," but it sounded muffled and far away, like through a long tunnel. The world spun. The red sky and All Might's shape blurred. He felt rough sand against his cheek. Then, thick, heavy darkness swallowed him completely. He passed out. Silence. Deep and total. Then, in the blackness inside his mind, a voice spoke. Not to his ears, but right inside his thoughts. It sounded calm, but underneath was deep confusion and a rising fear that matched Izuku's own panic. Figuring things out. Mixing with local power. Partly worked? This power. One for all. The person. Izuku Midoriya. Place. Earth. Heroes and quirks? Mistake. Big mistake. Where my body? Not working right. Senses. Messed up. Thinking. A pause filled with scary emptiness. Hello? Can anyone hear me? What just happened? The voice, Rimuru's voice, hung alone in the darkness of Izuku's unconscious mind. The beach, the setting sun, All Might shouting for help on the phone beside Izuku's fallen body, the fading tear in the air. Izuku knew none of it. There was only darkness, the strange new power buzzing inside him, a mix of One for All and something else, and the lost, frightened mind of the great demon Lord Rimuru Tempest, trapped inside the head of a boy who had just wanted to be a hero. Their story started not with a cheer, but with the sound of the world ripping open. Chapter 2, Two Souls, One Core. The world returned in fragments. First, a sterile, antiseptic smell that stung Izuku's nose. Then, the muffled hum of fluorescent lights vibrating overhead. A dull ache pulsed through his entire body, centered deep within his bones and radiating outwards. He felt hollowed out, yet somehow overflowing, a jarring contradiction that made his stomach lurch. His eyelids felt glued shut, heavy with exhaustion and the lingering residue of, what? That blinding light? The tearing sound? The otherness? He forced his eyes open, blinking against the harsh light. White ceiling tiles swam into focus. He was lying on a firm bed, covered by a thin, scratchy blanket. The familiar, comforting yet slightly intimidating sight of Recovery Girl's office at UA High School surrounded him. Relief warred with a deeper, more profound confusion. All Might, the beach, the power, that rip, the voice. Panic flared. He tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness slammed him back against the pillow. His body screamed in protest, muscles trembling with weakness. He felt utterly drained, like he'd run 100 marathons while simultaneously being hit by a truck. "Ah, you're awake, young man." Recovery Girl's voice, gentle but laced with professional concern, cut through the buzzing in his ears. She bustled into his field of vision, her small form dwarfed by the medical equipment nearby. How are you feeling? Any sharp pains? Nausea? Our recovery girl? Izuku croaked, his throat dry and raw. What happened? All Might, is he? All Might is fine, dearie, she assured him, patting his hand. Her touch was cool and reassuring. A little shaken, understandably. He brought you straight here after you collapsed on the beach. He's been pacing outside like a worried father for hours. She adjusted the 4-line tape to his arm. You gave everyone quite a scare. Severe quirk exhaustion, massive energy drain, and something else. Her eyes, sharp and perceptive behind her glasses, studied him intently. Your vitals were chaotic when you arrived. Stabilizing now, but it was unlike any quirk exhaustion I've seen related to One for All's initial transfer. All Might described a strange spatial disturbance. The beach incident flooded back. The golden hair landing, the terrifying rip in the air, the clash of energies, the overwhelming invasion, the voice in the dark. He shuddered. Why's? There was a hole. Like a tear. It had a weird energy. It hit me just as the power. He trailed off, unable to articulate the sheer violation and terror of that moment, the feeling of something vast and alien forcing its way in. Recovery girl hummed, her expression thoughtful. All Might mention that. He's reporting it to Nizu and the police. Unstable teleportation quirks are dangerous, but this sounded different. She checked his pulse. Rest is the best medicine for now. Your body needs time to integrate the power and recover from the shock. I've administered fluids and nutrients. Sleep, Midoriya. She dimmed the lights slightly and shuffled away, leaving Izuku alone with the hum of machines and the frantic whirlwind of his thoughts. Integrate the power? The thought was terrifying, because it wasn't just One for All anymore. That immense, heroic energy was there, a dormant furnace deep within his core, but tangled with it was something else. Something sentient. The voice. The thought formed hesitantly, tentatively, in the quiet of his mind. Can you hear me? Are you still there? Silence. Thick, oppressive silence. Maybe it had been a hallucination? A side effect of the trauma? Wishful thinking? But the memory was too vivid, too real. The calm confusion, the underlying fear that had mirrored his own panic. He closed his eyes, trying to focus inward, past the bone-deep fatigue. He sought the familiar, terrifying wellspring of One for All, the power that had shattered his limbs. It was there, vast and powerful but altered. Swirling within it, woven into its very fabric like iridescent threads in dark velvet, was another presence. It felt ancient, powerful, yet strangely contained. And then he felt a faint, sticky sensation on his cheek where it pressed against the pillow. He reached up slowly, wincing at the protest of his muscles. His fingers touched his skin. It felt damp? Not sweat. He pulled his hand back. His fingertips glistened with a faintly luminescent, translucent blue-green slime. It vanished almost instantly, absorbed back into his skin, leaving no trace but a lingering coolness. His breath hitched. What was that? Tactile feedback reestablished. Partial physical interaction confirmed. The voice echoed suddenly, clear as a bell inside his head, making Izuku flinch violently. It wasn't heard, it was felt, resonating directly within his consciousness. It sounded male, young, and brimming with analytical curiosity, though an undercurrent of profound disorientation remained. Subject, Izuku Midoriya. Location, medical facility, likely Earth origin, quirk, society. Current status, biological host experiencing severe energetic depletion. Observation, localized slime secretion detected, likely instinctive regenerative response triggered by host stress. Fascinating. Izuku's heart hammered against his ribs. It was real. He wasn't crazy. There was something, inside him. Who are you? He whispered aloud, his voice trembling. Internal vocalization detected. Communication attempt recognized. The voice paused, processing. Identification. Designation Rimuru Tempest. Former status, Great Demon Lord, ruler of the Rimuru Tempest Federation. Current status, uncertain. Analysis indicates non-corporeal consciousness merged with host biological system and integrated local energy source designated one for all. Significant dimensional translocation event confirmed. Cause: collision of unstable spatial anomaly with nascent power transfer. Consequence: spiritual and energetic fusion. The words washed over Izuku, each one more unbelievable than the last. Great Demon Lord? Ruler? Dimensional translocation? Fusion? It sounded like something out of one of his old hero analysis notebooks crossed with a fantasy light novel. Fear warred with an almost overwhelming geeky curiosity. Demon Lord? He squeaked. Correction, former Demon Lord. Rimuru's mental voice held a hint of dry amusement. Current designation irrelevant. Primary concern, stabilization. Host biological integrity is paramount. This one-for-all energy, it's potent but volatile. The fusion event created turbulence. My core is attempting integration, but the energies are resisting harmonization. Your body is the battleground. As if on cue, a sharp, stabbing pain lanced through Izuku's forearm. He gasped, clutching it. Beneath the skin, he saw a faint, brief flicker of that same blue-green light, like a trapped firefly. It faded quickly, leaving only the ache. Observed, energy feedback loop. My restorative abilities are attempting to heal cellular strain caused by one-for-all's residual instability, but the power itself reacts defensively. Inefficient. Dangerous. Rimuru's tone shifted, becoming more focused, urgent. Izuku Midoriya. We need to establish a stable mental link. Direct communication is inefficient and taxing for you. May I attempt deeper synchronization? Deeper? Izuku stammered, the fear spiking again. What does that mean? Are you going to take over? Images of body-snatching villains flashed through his mind. Negative. Rimuru's response was swift and firm, carrying a surprising weight of sincerity. Assumption of direct control is undesirable and currently impossible without catastrophic damage to your psyche and this fragile fusion. My core is embedded within one for all. Separation is currently non-viable. Synchronization means shared awareness, streamlined communication, potentially coordinated energy management. Think of it as opening a secure channel. I cannot act without your will, but I can perceive and advise. It is necessary for our mutual survival and understanding. Izuku took shaky breaths, trying to calm his racing heart. The pain in his arm was a stark reminder of the danger. The slime secretion, the voice, it was undeniable. This being Rimuru was part of him now. Hiding from it wouldn't help. All Might's words echoed. It's like a torch, passed from one person to another to fight the darkness. Was this part of that darkness? Or something else entirely? Rimuru hadn't attacked. He'd analyzed, explained, and expressed concern for his body. Izuku whispered, closing his eyes tightly. Do it. Synchronize. Acknowledgement. Initiating neural synchronization protocol. Warning. Initial contact may cause disorientation. There was no sound, no flash. Instead, Izuku's perception shifted. It was like suddenly having a second set of senses layered over his own, but inward-focused. He felt the vast, swirling ocean of one for all, a tempest of raw, inherited power. And nestled within its heart, like a brilliant, multifaceted gemstone radiating cool, calming light, was Rimuru's core. Tendrils of blue-green energy, gentle yet persistent, extended from the core, trying to weave themselves into the raging golden currents of OFA, soothing frayed edges, reinforcing weak points, but meeting resistance. Perception established. This is remarkable. Rimuru's voice wasn't just in his head now. It was part of his internal landscape, calm and observing. The complexity of one for all, it carries echoes. 8 distinct signatures intertwined with the core power. Vestiges of past wielders. And the instability, it's not just new user strain. The dimensional collision created microfractures in its energetic matrix. My presence is acting as a patch, but a temporary one. Izuku could see it in his mind's eye, the golden power riddled with hairline cracks of chaotic purple and green energy, the blue-green light of Rimuru sealing them, but new cracks appearing elsewhere. It was a constant, delicate repair job. Is that why I hurt? He thought, the communication effortless now. Affirmative. The power leaks cause cellular stress. My regeneration counters it, but it's a reactive measure, not a cure. Furthermore, Rimuru's focus shifted. My core isn't just patching, it's integrating. Analyzing. The fusion is creating mutations. Mutations. Dread pooled in Izuku's stomach. Accessing passive skills. Magic sense online. Range limited to host physiology and immediate vicinity. Analyze and assess online. Scan it. Izuku felt a cool, analytical wave sweep through him. Host biology exhibits enhanced cellular regeneration baseline, approximately 300% above human normal, fueled by my slime essence. Skeletal and muscular density show slight increase, likely adaptation to OFA's potential. Neural pathways, fascinating. Increased processing speed and sensory acuity detected. Synergy potential with One for All's physical enhancement is significant. However, Izuku prompted nervously. However, the fusion has unlocked latent aspects of my capabilities within the OFA matrix. Specifically, the Predator skill tree, absorption, mimicry, isolation. They are dormant but integrated. Accessible, theoretically, through One for All's conduit, your body. Izuku's mind reeled. Absorption? Mimicry? Those sounded terrifyingly powerful and potentially monstrous. Can I control them? Unknown. Theoretical activation requires significant energy expenditure and conscious intent, likely channeled through One for All. Risk of uncontrolled manifestation exists, especially under stress. Caution is paramount. Before Izuku could process this further, the door to the infirmary swung open. All Might stood there, still in his skeletal form, his face etched with deep worry that softened into profound relief when he saw Izuku awake. Young Midoriya. He hurried to the bedside, his large hand gently resting on Izuku's shoulder. Thank goodness. How are you feeling? All Might. Izuku tried to sit up again, managing it this time with a grunt of effort, supported by the hero. Tired. Sore. He glanced nervously at Recovery Girl, who gave him a knowing look but remained silent, observing. You gave me quite the fright, my boy, All Might said, his voice low and earnest. That spatial anomaly. I've never felt anything like it. Did it affect the transfer? His blue eyes searched Izuku's face, filled with concern not just for the boy, but for the legacy he carried. Caution advised, Rimuru's voice was a cool current in their shared mindscape. Disclosure of my presence carries significant risk. Social stigma, fear of possession, potential designation as a villain or security threat. Recommend limited information sharing until greater understanding and control are achieved. Izuku swallowed hard. He hated lying to All Might, his idol, his mentor. But Rimuru's points were chillingly valid. What would they do if they knew a self-proclaimed former demon lord was fused with One for All inside him? Expulsion? Imprisonment? Experimentation? The thought made him feel sick. I don't know, All Might, Izuku stammered, looking down at his hands. When the energies hit, it felt wrong. Like something got mixed in. The power feels different. Bigger? But unstable. That much was true. I've been feeling strange sensations. Like coolness. Inside. All Might's brow furrowed deeply. Strange sensations? Different how? Recovery Girl mentioned unusual biosignatures. He looked at the nurse. His cellular activity shows patterns inconsistent with standard quirk exhaustion or OFA integration, Recovery Girl confirmed. There's a regenerative component I can't identify. Like accelerated healing but foreign. And his energy readings fluctuate wildly, even at rest. All Might squeezed Izuku's shoulder gently. We'll figure this out, young Midoriya. Yue has the best resources. Nizu is already investigating the spatial tear. For now, focus on rest. Your body has undergone an immense ordeal. The important thing is that you're alive, and one for all is within you. We'll handle the rest, step by step. His smile was reassuring, but Izuku could see the deep worry in his eyes. Thank you, All Might, Izuku mumbled, guilt twisting inside him. He was keeping a world-shattering secret from the person who trusted him most. Survival necessitates discretion, Rimuru reiterated. Our priority must be understanding and controlling this fusion. Revealing me prematurely could endanger you and compromise our ability to fix this. We are bound, Izuku Midoriya. For better or worse, our fates are intertwined. Cooperation is our only viable path. Izuku took a shaky breath. We cooperate. We stay hidden. We learn to control. He directed the thought firmly towards the presence within. But no taking over. No using powers without me knowing. Deal? A pulse of agreement resonated from the core within OFA. The mutual survival pact established. Primary objective, stabilize fusion, prevent host biological degradation, understand and control merged capabilities. Secondary objective, investigate cause of dimensional breach, assess potential threats. It felt like signing a contract with a force of nature. Terrifying, but also strangely grounding. He wasn't alone in this chaos. Days blurred into a haze of rest, tests, and awkward explanations. Izuku was kept in the infirmary under Recovery Girl's watchful eye. All Might visited daily, his concern a constant, warm presence. Nizu popped in once, his beady eyes missing nothing, asking pointed questions about the sensations Izuku experienced. Izuku stuck to the script, feeling the power differently, strange internal coolness, instability. He mentioned nothing of voices, slime, or demon lords. Meanwhile, the silent partnership with Rimuru deepened. The mental link became second nature, a constant background hum of shared perception. Rimuru was an endless source of analysis. Observing Recovery Girl's quirk, Heal, accelerates natural healing via lip contact. Requires significant user stamina and patient biological resources. Inefficient compared to ultra-speed regeneration, but impressive for a non-magical biological ability. Note, her energy expenditure is high, visible fatigue post-use. Analyzing All Might's residual energy signature, severely depleted. Critical damage to organic energy conversion system. Current form is baseline human sustained by sheer willpower and residual OFA embers. Heroic sacrifice evident. Risk of complete systemic failure high without intervention. Current fusion status prevents safe assistance. Scanning UA infrastructure. Advanced energy shielding detected around perimeter. Likely anti-intruder and quirk dampening fields. Security systems are multi-layered, electronic, biometric, motion sensor, and biological? Interesting. Several non-human energy signatures detected among staff. Izuku absorbed it all, his analytical mind latching onto the data even through his fatigue and fear. Rimuru's perspective was alien, viewing quirks as fascinating biological magical phenomena, heroes and villains through the lens of power dynamics and governance. It was overwhelming but undeniably enlightening. The physical manifestations became harder to hide. The cool, slimy sensation would flare up randomly when he got flustered talking to All Might, when Nizu's gaze felt too penetrating during a particularly painful blood draw. Once, a small scrape on his knuckle from fumbling a glass of water vanished in seconds, leaving only a faint blue-green sheen that dissipated almost instantly. He caught Recovery Girl frowning at the spot later. Instinctive activation of lesser regeneration, Rimuru supplied. Stress response. Requires conscious suppression. How? Izuku thought desperately. Focus. Internalize. Visualize containment. Your will governs the merged energies. Command the slime essence to remain dormant unless consciously invoked. It was like trying to hold back a sneeze or suppress a flinch. He practiced constantly, lying in bed, focusing inward, visualizing a shield around the cool, slimy presence within him, forcing it to settle. It was exhausting mental work on top of his physical recovery. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Recovery Girl declared him stable enough for light activity, albeit confined to the school grounds and under supervision. No training, Midoriya, she warned sternly, wagging a finger. Light walks only. Your body is still integrating that power and whatever else is going on. Pushing it could be catastrophic. Relief washed over Izuku. Getting out of the infirmary felt like escaping a gilded cage, even if the larger prison was his own transformed body. All Might walked with him, a comforting, albeit anxious, presence. "It's good to see you up and about, young man," All Might said, his voice warm. "Take it slow. The training ground is off limits, but perhaps a walk through the courtyard? Some fresh air might do you good." They walked in companionable silence for a while, the spring sun warm on their faces. Yue felt different now. The towering buildings, the distant sounds of other students training, it all seemed sharper, more vibrant. Izuku realized it was Rimuru's influence. His magic sense, though limited, heightened Izuku's passive awareness. He could feel the faint hum of power from distant quirks, the solidity of the earth beneath his feet, the flow of air currents. Magic sense detects anomalous energy signature. Rimuru's alert cut through his observation. Approximately 50 meters ahead. Faint spatial distortion. Residual energy matching the beach breach. Izuku froze, his blood running cold. "All Might, do you feel that?" he whispered, eyes scanning ahead. They were approaching a less frequented side courtyard near one of the support department's storage sheds. All Might's expression sharpened instantly, his hero instincts kicking in despite his weakened state. "Feel what, young Midoriya?" Before Izuku could explain, a small, jagged tear, no larger than a coin, flickered into existence near the base of the shed. It spat out a brief burst of chaotic purple light and something small, dark, and metallic that clattered onto the concrete path before the rip snapped shut with a faint pop. What was that? All Might moved swiftly, putting himself slightly ahead of Izuku, his body tense. Object analysis, inert metallic fragment. Composition, iron alloy, traces of chromium. Origin, unknown dimension. Residual spatial energy fading rapidly. Microportals. The instability is spreading. Rimuru's voice was grim. Izuku pointed a shaking finger. By the shed. Something fell out. All Might strode forward, peering at the small, twisted piece of metal. He pulled out a handkerchief and carefully picked it up. Doesn't match any known support gear or construction material here. He looked around, his gaze sweeping the area. No other disturbances. But you sensed it, young Midoriya? Before it appeared. I felt a weird pressure? Like the air was buzzing. Izuku lied, his heart pounding. Rimuru's warning about disclosure echoed loudly. Just for a second. All Might studied him, then the fragment. Your connection to One for All, perhaps it's making you sensitive to the residual energies from the breach. This is concerning. I must report this to Nizu immediately. He pocketed the fragment carefully. Let's get you back inside. It seems the danger isn't entirely past. The incident left Izuku shaken. The breach wasn't isolated. It was spreading. And he, fused with Rimuru, was apparently a sensor for it. The weight of secrecy felt heavier than ever. 3 days later, deemed sufficiently recovered, though still under strict no quirk use orders, Izuku was allowed to observe a basic heroics class. Not participate, just watch from the sidelines under Aizawa's watchful eye. It was agony and joy. Seeing his classmates, Uraraka's effortless floating, Ida's incredible speed, Kirishima's hardening, filled him with longing and frustration. He wanted to be out there so badly. Bakugo, naturally, was a whirlwind of explosive power and aggression during a simple capture drill. His movements were sharp, brutal, efficient. He pinned Siro against a training dummy with a concussive blast, the force rattling the observation windows where Izuku stood. Pathetic. Bakugo snarled, turning away, already looking for the next target. His crimson eyes scanned the training ground and locked onto Izuku in the observation booth. A sneer twisted his lips. Still benched, Deku? What's the matter? Your precious All Might's hand-me-down quirk finally break you for good. Can't handle even watching real heroes work. The taunt stung, But worse was the sudden spike of anger and indignation that flared within Izuku, hot and fierce. It wasn't entirely his own. Hostile entity identified, Katsuki Bakugo. Quirk, explosion, nitroglycerin-like sweat detonation. Personality, aggressive, competitive, holds significant animosity towards host. Threat level, moderate. Emotional response, anger. Suggestion, ignore provocation. Engagement offers no tactical advantage. Easier said than done. Bakugo's words always dug deep. The hot anger mixed with Izuku's own frustration and helplessness. He clenched his fists, looking down. As he did, his gaze fell on a broken training dummy near the edge of the field. It was one Bakugo had just obliterated, a tangled mess of synthetic muscle fibers, shattered plastic and exposed metal struts. And in that moment, consumed by Bakugo's taunt and his own pent-up powerlessness, Izuku felt it a pull. Not emotional. Physical. A sudden, sharp hunger emanating from deep within his core, from the place where Rimuru's essence was woven into one for all. It was a primal, insatiable urge directed straight at the shattered dummy. Warning. Predator's skill activation detected. Rimuru's mental shout was urgent. Unconscious trigger. High stress. Suppress. But it was too late. Izuku didn't command it, it happened. His right hand shot out involuntarily, palm facing the broken dummy from 20 meters away. A stream of viscous, shimmering blue-green slime erupted from his palm, across the distance faster than the eye could follow. It struck the dummy's wreckage with a wet splat. Time seemed to freeze. Uraraka paused, mid-float. Ida skidded to a halt. Kirishima hardened instinctively. Bakugo whirled around, his sneer vanishing into stunned disbelief. Aizawa's head snapped up from where he'd been grating, his capture weapon loosening slightly around his neck, his eyes wide and instantly alert, glowing red as erasure activated on reflex, though it had no visible effect on the slime. The blue-green substance didn't just cover the dummy, it engulfed it. The broken plastic, the synthetic fibers, the twisted metal struts, they dissolved on contact, vanishing into the shimmering mass like sugar in hot water. In less than 2 seconds, the entire wreckage was gone. The slime pulsed once, glowing brighter, then snapped back towards Izuku like a rubber band, retracting into his palm and vanishing without a trace. Only a faint, quickly fading blue-green sheen on his skin remained. A profound silence descended on Jim Gamma. The only sound was the faint hum of the lights and Izuku's own ragged, terrified breathing. He stared at his hand, then at the spot where the dummy had been. Nothing. Not even dust. Utterly erased. He slowly lifted his gaze. 20 pairs of eyes were locked onto him, filled with shock, confusion, and dawning fear. Uraraka's hand was over her mouth. Ida. Looked like he'd seen a ghost. Kirishima's hardened jaw was slack. Bakugo's expression was pure, unadulterated fury mixed with utter bewilderment. And Aizawa. Aizawa's eyes were no longer just alert, they were narrowed into dangerous slits, glowing red, fixed on Izuku with an intensity that felt like physical pressure. His capture scarf was taut. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The question hung heavy in the stunned silence, echoing in Izuku's own petrified mind, amplified by Rimuru's chillingly calm analysis. Absorption complete. Materials: synthetic polymer, carbon fiber, steel alloy. Minimal nutritional value. Predator subskill isolation engaged automatically. No useful skills acquired. Threat assessment: severe social and strategic compromise. Host status: exposed. Izuku stood frozen, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The secret was out. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to brand him a monster. Enough to shatter everything. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, broken only by Bakugo's low, dangerous growl. What the hell was that, Deku? Chapter 3, Power Adjustment. The silence in Jim Gamma wasn't just the absence of sound, it was a physical weight pressing down on Izuku Midoriya. 20 pairs of eyes, wide with shock, confusion and burgeoning fear, were fixed solely on him. Uraraka looked like she might be sick. Ida was frozen mid-step, hand halfway to adjusting imaginary glasses. Kirishima's hardened jaw hung slack. Todoroki's heterochromatic gaze was unnervingly intense, dissecting him. And Bakugo's face was a mask of pure, incandescent fury mixed with utter disbelief, his palms crackling faintly with suppressed explosions. But the worst was Aizawa. Eraserhead's eyes glowed an ominous red, his capture scarf taut with tension. His expression wasn't shocked, it was dangerously focused, the look of a predator who just identified a significant anomaly. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The unspoken accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. What are you? Host status, critically compromised, Rimuru's voice cut through Izuku's panic, its usual calm replaced by urgent analysis. Social threat assessment, severe. Immediate explanation required. Suggest plausible deniability. Plausible deniability? How? He just shot slime from his hand and dissolved a training dummy in front of his entire class and homeroom teacher. And Midoriya? Uraraka's voice trembled, breaking the awful silence. What was that? Izuku's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. His brain scrambled, synapses firing wildly but producing only static. He could feel the phantom coolness where the slime had retracted, a constant, terrifying reminder. It wasn't, he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Don't give me that bullshit. Bakugo roared, exploding forward, propelled by his quirk until he was mere feet away, his spiked hair practically vibrating with rage. He jabbed a finger towards the spot where the dummy had vanished. You just ate it. Like some kind of fucking monster. What kind of sick, hidden quirk is that? Did All Might give you that too? The accusation, so close to the terrifying truth, sent a fresh wave of panic through Izuku. Kaken, it's not like that. It's part of One for All? Maybe. The lie tasted like ash, but he had nothing else. It acted on its own. I didn't mean to. Aizawa finally moved. He deactivated erasure, his eyes returning to their usual dark, tired state, though the intensity remained. He stepped forward, placing himself subtly between Bakugo and Izuku. Bakugo, stand down. His voice was low, flat, brooking no argument. Bakugo snarled but took a half-step back, fists clenched, smoke curling from his palms. Aizawa turned his gaze fully onto Izuku. Midoriya. Explain. What was that manifestation? It bore no resemblance to One for All as previously documented. Izuku felt sweat bead on his forehead. Rimuru's presence was a frantic hum in his mind, feeding him possible deflection points. Stress-induced quirk mutation. Uncontrolled energy discharge. Unknown side effect of the beach incident. None sounded believable. I think the dimensional tear. Izuku forced out, latching onto the only known external factor. When the energy hit me during the transfer, maybe it changed something? Made One for All unstable? That felt like a surge. An uncontrolled one. Like a backlash. He kept his eyes fixed on Aizawa's boots, unable to meet the man's penetrating stare. I've been feeling weird instability since then. Recovery girl knows. Aizawa's expression didn't change, but Izuku felt the weight of his scrutiny deepen. A surge that manifests as an acidic or assimilative slime substance, he stated flatly. Unprecedented. And highly dangerous. He glanced at the pristine spot of concrete. That dummy is classified training equipment. Its destruction will be noted. Report to Principal Nizu's office immediately after class. Dismissed. He turned his attention back to the stunned class. The rest of you resume drills. Bakugo, control your temper or you'll be running laps. The dismissal felt like a temporary reprieve from an executioner. Izuku stumbled out of the observation booth on shaky legs, the eyes of his classmates burning holes into his back. He could feel Bakugo's furious glare like a physical brand. The walk to Nizu's office was a blur of white corridors and mounting dread. Analysis. Aizawa Shoda is suspicious but pragmatic, Rimuru observed, his mental voice regaining some composure. He prioritizes immediate safety and information gathering over public accusation. Nizu will be far more probing. Recommend adhering to the instability narrative. Disclose only the physical sensations, energy fluctuations, internal coolness. Deny conscious control over the slime manifestation. Attribute it entirely to OFA's mutated state triggered by high stress. They saw it, Rimuru. Izuku thought back frantically. They saw me shoot slime and dissolve something. How can I just deny control? They'll think I'm lying. Or worse, that I'm dangerous and hiding it. Admitting conscious control implies intent and capability. That elevates the threat level significantly. Claiming a stress-induced, unconscious backlash paints it as a symptom of a problem, not a deliberate act. It makes you a victim of circumstance, requiring observation and help, rather than a potential villain needing containment. It's the least damaging narrative available. It felt cowardly, dishonest. But the image of being locked away, studied like a lab specimen, or worse, expelled for being a monster, was paralyzing. He had to play the victim, even if it churned his stomach. He reached Nizu's office door, took a shuddering breath, and knocked. "Come in, Midoriya-kun." Nizu's cheerful voice chimed from within. The principal sat behind his large desk, a steaming cup of tea before him. All Might was also there, perched awkwardly on a too-small chair, his skeletal face etched with deep concern that deepened further when he saw Izuku. "Young Midoriya, are you all right?" Aizawa informed me, "Something happened during the observation." All Might stood, his large hand hovering anxiously. Nizu's beady black eyes missed nothing. "Indeed. Quite the unexpected display. Please, sit down, Midoriya-kun. Tell us everything in your own words." Izuku sank into the offered chair, feeling like a bug under a microscope. He recounted the events, sticking rigidly to Rimuru's script, Bakugo's taunt, his own rising frustration and helplessness, the sudden, overwhelming surge of power he couldn't control, the involuntary expulsion of the strange energy that dissolved the dummy. He emphasized the instability he'd felt since the beach, the internal coolness, the fatigue recovery girl had noted. "So, you're saying this substance is an uncontrolled manifestation of one for all, mutated by the dimensional energy?" Nizu clarified, steepling his pause. "Why, yes, sir," Izuku nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Felt like the power backfired. Like it was lashing out because I couldn't contain it properly. That part, at least, held a kernel of truth. And you have no conscious ability to produce or control this slime-like energy?" Nizu pressed, his tone deceptively light. "No, sir. It just happened. Like a spasm. I couldn't stop it." Izuku clenched his hands in his lap to hide their trembling. All Might placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We knew the transfer was affected, young Midoriya. This is just a more visible manifestation of that instability. We'll help you understand it, control it." Nizu sipped his tea thoughtfully. "Visible and destructive. This complicates things significantly, All Might. Uncontrolled energy discharges of unknown composition and effect are a serious safety hazard, both for Midoriya-kun and those around him." He turned his gaze back to Izuku. "Your training regimen requires immediate adjustment. Until we understand this mutation and you demonstrate control, all quirk usage outside controlled, supervised environments is strictly prohibited, including passive manifestations like enhanced strength or speed. We cannot risk another incident." Izuku's heart sank. No training? No using OFA at all? How could he become a hero like this? But sir, how will I learn to control it if I can't practice?" "Under supervision, Midoriya-kun." "Extreme supervision," Nizu stated firmly. "Starting tomorrow, your afternoons will be spent in gym beta with All Might and myself. We will conduct controlled tests to map the extent of this mutation, its triggers, and potential containment methods. Consider it a specialized remedial course." He offered a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Safety first. For everyone." The meeting ended with Izuku feeling more confined than ever. He was grounded, his powers locked down, under constant scrutiny, and living a lie. The walk back to the dorms was solitary and heavy. Regrettable but necessary, Rimuru consoled, though his tone held a hint of frustration. Suppression limits our ability to understand and master the fusion. However, the supervised sessions present an opportunity. Controlled environment, expert observers, ideal for gathering data on our merged capabilities without public exposure. We must utilize this. How? They'll be watching everything. Precisely. We show them what they expect to see: instability, uncontrolled surges. But simultaneously we learn. I will analyze every fluctuation, every sensation. We begin mapping the boundaries of this fusion. The next afternoon found Izuku standing on the pristine, reinforced floor of Gym Beta. All Might stood nearby, looking uncharacteristically serious and concerned. Nizu observed from a shielded control booth high above, monitors displaying various bio-readouts fed from sensors attached to Izuku's gym uniform. "All right, young Midoriya," All Might said, his voice gentle but firm. "Let's start simple. No power activation. Just try to stand still. Focus on feeling the energy within you." Nizu wants baseline readings without any external stress. Izuku nodded, closing his eyes. He focused inward, past the nervous flutter in his stomach, seeking the churning sea of power within. One for All felt like a contained storm, vast and powerful but turbulent. Its golden light shot through with streaks of chaotic purple and green, the lingering scars of the dimensional collision. Woven through it, like a lattice of cool, blue-green light, was Rimuru's core, constantly emitting gentle tendrils that tried to soothe the raging energy, patching microfractures only for new ones to appear. Beginning passive scan, Rimuru announced. Monitoring biosignatures, heart rate elevated due to stress, not energy. Brainwave patterns show heightened beta activity, anxiety. OFA energy baseline, fluctuating between 3% and 8% capacity without conscious draw. Instability index, high. My core output, stable, regenerative field active at minimal sustainment level. Feeling anything, young man? All Might asked. The usual buzz, sir. Like static. And the cool feeling inside. Izuku reported honestly. Accurate reporting builds trust within their expected parameters, Rimuru noted. Nizu's voice crackled over the intercom. Baseline established. Minor fluctuations consistent with Recovery Girl's reports. Proceed to Stage 1, All Might. Minimal physical exertion. Light calisthenics. All Might guided Izuku through simple stretches, then light jogging in place. Izuku focused on moving naturally, suppressing any instinctive urge to tap into OFA for ease. Sweat beaded on his forehead from the effort of pure physical exertion combined with the mental strain of constant suppression. Observe, OFA energy reacts to physical strain, Rimuru commented. Microsurges attempt to enhance muscle fiber activation, but are dampened by your conscious suppression and the instability. Inefficiency causes localized cellular stress points. My regeneration counters it. Automatically. See the faint bioluminescent signature on your inner arm? Izuku glanced down subtly. Sure enough, where his sleeve had ridden up, a patch of skin glowed faintly blue-green for a second before fading. He quickly pulled the sleeve down. "Feeling a bit warm, All Might," he called out, hoping to cover the tell. "Understood. Keep going, steady pace." All Might encouraged. Stage 2, low-level stress simulation, Nizu announced. A section of the floor slid open, revealing a simple obstacle course, low hurdles, a balance beam, a rope climb. Navigate the course, Midoriya-kun. Focus on agility and balance. No quirk augmentation. Maintain current exertion level. Izuku took a breath and started. He cleared the hurdles awkwardly, wobbled on the beam, and struggled slightly with the rope. It was frustratingly slow compared to what he knew he could do with just a fraction of OFA. Halfway through, his foot slipped slightly on the beam. Instinctively, a tiny spark of OFA flared in his leg to correct his balance. Suppress. Rimuru commanded. Izuku clamped down hard, forcing the energy back. He wobbled violently, arms windmilling, and barely avoided falling. The effort left him panting. OFA surge detected. 1.5% localized to gastrocnemius muscle. Suppressed manually. Cellular stress detected. Regeneration activated subcutaneously. Rimuru reported clinically. The suppression is causing microtears in the muscle fibers. Inefficient and damaging long-term. Everything all right, young Midoriya? All Might called, looking concerned. Why, just clumsy. Izuku gasped, forcing a smile. He finished the course, his legs trembling slightly from the conflicting forces within. Stage 3. Emotional stress test. Nizu's voice held a hint of curiosity. A screen descended from the ceiling. Midoriya-kun, please watch this footage. The screen flickered to life, showing a news report about a villain attack, a hostage situation. The villain was menacing, the civilians terrified. Izuku's hero instinct screamed. He leaned forward, fists clenching unconsciously. He wanted to help. He needed to act. The familiar drive to save people surged. Emotional spike detected, heroic drive, empathy, urgency. OFA core resonance increasing. 10%. 15%. Suppress, Izuku. Rimuru's warning was sharp. Izuku gritted his teeth, trying to force the rising power down. It was like holding back a flood with his bare hands. He felt the energy crackle under his skin, saw faint golden sparks flicker around his clenched fists. Simultaneously, the coolness inside surged in response, a blue-green sheen spreading visibly up his neck. Midoriya. Control it. All Might urged, taking a step closer. Conflict. Suppression causing internal feedback loop. Rimuru's analysis was frantic. OFA instability spiking. My regeneration is overcompensating. Risk of uncontrolled manifestation. Izuku gasped, feeling a terrifying pressure build in his right arm. It wasn't just energy, it felt like something was trying to reshape. The image of the training dummy dissolving flashed in his mind. Panic seized him. Not here. Not now. He focused every ounce of his will, not just on suppressing OFA, but on containing the slimy, shifting sensation crawling under his skin. He visualized a solid barrier, a vault slamming shut. He squeezed his eyes shut, trembling violently. Stop, please stop, he whispered, not sure who he was pleading with, the power, Rimuru, or himself. Slowly, agonizingly, the pressure receded. The sparks faded. The blue-green sheen vanished. Izuku slumped to his knees, panting, drenched in cold sweat. He hadn't manifested anything, but the near miss had been terrifyingly close. Silence filled the gym. All Might knelt beside him, a hand on his back. Easy, young man. You held it back. That's progress. From the booth, Nizu's voice was thoughtful. Fascinating. The mutation reacts strongly to emotional catalysts, particularly the drive to act heroically. The secondary energy, the coolness, appears to be a regenerative counterbalance, but becomes volatile under duress. Suppression is possible but physically taxing and potentially damaging. We have much to learn. Session concluded for today, Midoriya-kun. Rest. Izuku stumbled out of the gym, supported by All Might, feeling utterly drained and demoralized. The next few days followed a similar pattern. Tense, monitored sessions in gym beta, filled with careful tests, near misses, and exhausting suppression. The constant strain was taking its toll. Izuku moved through the dorms like a ghost, jumping at shadows, flinching when classmates got too close. He avoided the common room, taking meals in his room. The curious and wary glances followed him everywhere. Only one person seemed actively hostile rather than just confused, Bakugo. He watched Izuku like a hawk, his crimson eyes narrowed with suspicion. He didn't confront him directly again, but his muttered comments were sharp and cutting. Freak. Monster. Walking biohazard. They stung, feeding Izuku's isolation and fear. One evening, alone in his room after another grueling session, Izuku finally broke down. The stress, the secrecy, the constant fear of exposure, the weight of the lie, it all crashed down. He sat on his bed, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I can't do this, Rimuru. I'm going to crack. Someone's going to get hurt. Bakugo's right, What if I am a monster? Emotional distress acknowledged. Rimuru's voice was softer than usual, lacking its usual analytical edge. Bakugo Katsuki operates on aggression and perceived threat. Your mutation challenges his worldview and his perceived superiority. His hostility is predictable but irrelevant to our survival. You are not a monster, Izuku Midoriya. You are a host coping with an unprecedented interdimensional accident. The monster, as you might define it, would be me. Izuku sniffled, wiping his eyes. You're not a monster, Rimuru. You helped me. You're trying to control it too. Perception is subjective. In my world, I was called a monster many times before earning the title of Demon Lord. Perhaps Bakugo is not entirely wrong in his crude assessment, from his limited perspective. Demon Lord, Izuku murmured, the title sending a shiver down his spine despite his defense. He'd avoided asking, afraid of the answer. But the isolation and the weight of their shared secret made the question bubble up. Rimuru, you said you were a great demon lord? A ruler? What does that even mean? How did a slime become that? The absurdity of the question almost made him laugh through his tears. There was a pause, a sense of introspection within their shared mindscape. A long story, Izuku Midoriya. Summarized, I was once human. A salaryman named Saru Mikami, stabbed in the street. I died. I woke up as a slime in a cave, blind and deaf, in a world governed by magic, monsters, and warring nations. I named myself Rimuru Tempest. Izuku's breath hitched. Reincarnated? As a slime? It sounded like the plot of one of Mineta's light novels. Affirmative, Rimuru continued. I possessed unique skills. Predator to absorb and gain abilities, great sage for analysis and guidance. I befriended monsters, a mighty storm dragon, Veldora, sealed in my cave. I freed him, earned his blessing. I sought to create a haven where monsters could live without fear, a place called Rimuru Tempest Federation. It grew. We faced threats, greedy humans, scheming demon lords, otherworldly invaders. I absorbed powers, evolved. From slime to demon slime, to true demon lord. I gained strength to protect my people, my nation. His mental voice held a complex mix of pride, nostalgia, and a deep, underlying sorrow. I ruled not through fear, but through mutual respect and strength used for defense. But power attracts challenges. Constant vigilance. Constant battles. It was a heavy mantle. Izuku listened, utterly captivated despite himself. The story was fantastical, epic, terrifying. A slime building a nation? Fighting demon lords? Absorbing powers? It explains so much about Rimuru's analytical nature, his power, his calmness under pressure. It also explained the terrifying potential lurking within their fusion. So, the Predator's skill, the absorption, that's how you? Predator and its evolved forms allowed me to analyze, mimic, and acquire the skills and attributes of what I consumed, monsters, magic, even weapons. It's a core part of my being, now tangled with one for all within you. That's what manifested in the gym, a base-level application of isolation and absorption. And you were respected? A leader. Izuku couldn't reconcile the terrifying demon lord image with the calm presence helping him. By my peoples, by allies, by enemies, fear and respect often intertwine. I did what was necessary to protect what was mine. Sometimes, it required overwhelming power. Sometimes, ruthlessness. The title, Demon Lord, was earned, not given lightly. Rimuru paused. Does this knowledge frighten you more, Izuku Midoriya? Izuku thought about it. It was frightening. The sheer scale of Rimuru's power and past was daunting. You're helping me. You haven't tried to take over. You protected me when that power lashed out. You care about stabilizing this, about not hurting anyone. He took a deep breath. You might have been a demon lord, but you don't feel like a villain. You feel like a person. A really powerful, reincarnated, slime person who's stuck with me. A pulse of genuine amusement, warm and unexpected, resonated from Rimuru's core. An accurate, if peculiar, summation. Thank you, Izuku. The feeling is mutual. You possess a heroic spirit remarkably similar to some of my most trusted allies. Perhaps this fusion, however chaotic, isn't entirely without potential. The shared moment of understanding, of vulnerability acknowledged, eased some of the crushing weight on Izuku's shoulders. He wasn't alone. He had an ally, a terrifyingly powerful one with a bizarre past, but an ally nonetheless. They were in this together. The supervised sessions continued, a grueling routine of careful probing and near-constant suppression. One afternoon, Nizu introduced a new element, low-level impact testing. Izuku was to stand still while a small, weighted ball, soft, rubber-coated, was fired at his shoulder from a pneumatic launcher at increasing velocities. The goal was to see if his subconscious would activate any defensive aspect of his mutated quirk under sudden threat. Begin level 1, minimal velocity, Nizu announced. Thwomp. The ball hit Izuku's shoulder with a light tap. Nothing happened. No OFA surge, no slime. Just a slight sting. Level 2. Thwomp. A firmer impact. Izuku braced, consciously holding back any reaction. Still nothing. Level 3. Thwomp. Harder. Izuku grunted slightly. He felt the faintest flicker of OFA energy instinctively gathering at the impact point, like a muscle tensing, but he suppressed it instantly. A tiny point of warmth flared under his skin where the ball hit, quickly soothed by a wave of coolness. Observe, OFA defensive reflex triggered and manually suppressed. Microdamage instantly regenerated, Rimuru reported. Interesting. Minimal reflexive energy gathering, effectively suppressed. Proceeding to level 4, Nizu said. Level 4 was significantly faster. The ball slammed into Izuku's shoulder with enough force to make him stagger back a step. Pain flared. Instinct screamed. OFA roared to life in his shoulder, a golden flare of power surging to absorb the impact. Simultaneously, the cool slime essence surged, trying to heal the bruising instantly. Suppress. Rimuru commanded, but the dual surge was overwhelming. Izuku clamped down with all his might. He felt the conflicting energies collide inside his shoulder. There was a sickening pop followed not by pain, but by a bizarre, numb tingling. He looked down. His shoulder rippled. The fabric of his gym shirt distorted as the shape beneath it shifted. For a split second, the outline wasn't human muscle and bone. It looked softer, more amorphous, glowing faintly blue-green beneath the material before snapping back to normal with an almost audible slurp. Midoriya. All Might was at his side instantly. Izuku stared at his shoulder, horrified. He flexed it. It felt normal. But he'd seen it. Felt it. Temporary localized shapeshift, Rimuru diagnosed, his voice tight. Instinctive activation of mimicry subskill triggered by impact and the conflicting suppression of OFA and regeneration. It attempted to absorb the kinetic energy by becoming malleable. Suppression forced reversion. I am okay. Izuku stammered, pulling his shirt collar to look at the skin. It was unmarked. Just a weird spasm. The energy, it surged weirdly. All Might looked unconvinced. Nizu's voice crackled, sharper than usual. Report the sensation precisely, Midoriya-kun. What did you feel? Like, it went numb? And tingly? Like my shoulder fell asleep really fast and then woke up. Izuku lied, his heart hammering. Shapeshifting? It could shapeshift? The implications were horrifying. Analysis. The fusion is evolving, Rimuru stated, his mental voice grave as Nizu ordered the session paused for review. The forced suppression under stress isn't just containing the powers, it's forcing them to interact in new, unpredictable ways. The mimicry activation wasn't solely mine, it was facilitated by One for All's energy conduit. The mutation is unlocking latent capabilities within the OFA matrix itself. Izuku felt cold dread seep into his bones. What does that mean? It means One for All isn't just damaged, Izuku. It's mutating, adapting, integrating aspects of my core skills, regeneration, predator, mimicry, spatial sense, into its own structure. It's not just us sharing space anymore. Our powers are merging, creating something new. Something potentially far more powerful, but also far more volatile and dangerous than either of us alone. As Izuku sat in the recovery area, All Might fretting nearby and Nizu reviewing the footage frame by frame, the weight of Rimuru's words settled over him. One for all, the sacred torch passed down to fight evil, was changing. It was becoming something else. Something that could heal and absorb and shapeshift. Something born of a hero's spirit and a demon lord's essence. The path ahead wasn't just about control anymore. It was about understanding what kind of power, what kind of hero, was being forged in the chaotic fire of their fusion. And the thought was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. Chapter 4. The Rift Spreads. The sterile scent of Recovery Girl's office had become a familiar prison, but the air outside felt different now. Thicker. UA High School, usually a bastion of focused hero training, hummed with a subtle undercurrent of tension. The incident in Gym Gamma had sent ripples far beyond Class 1A. Whispers followed Izuku Midoriya through the halls. Did you hear? That green slime, they say he ate it whole, each one a tiny barb pricking his already frayed nerves. The official line was uncontrolled quirk mutation, but suspicion hung heavy in the air, a tangible fog only Izuku and his silent passenger could truly feel. He walked the corridors like a ghost, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the polished floor. His world had shrunk, dorms, Nizu's office, gym beta for supervised containment training, and back again. The weight of secrecy was a physical ache, rivaled only by the constant effort of suppressing the churning energies within him. Every step felt like walking on a minefield laid over shifting tectonic plates. Magic sense detects elevated background spatial resonance, Rimuru's calm voice observed within their shared mindscape. Approximately 0.8% above baseline. Residual energy signatures consistent with previous microbreaches are present near support department ventilation B faint, but increasing. Another one? Izuku thought, his heart skipping a beat. He subtly adjusted his path towards the indicated area, feigning interest in a bulletin board filled with club notices. Near the vent the air felt thin, like a stretched piece of plastic. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of ozone and something metallic, like hot copper, tickled his nose, a scent only he seemed to notice. Affirmative. Microfracture. Likely self-sealed after minimal energy discharge. Pattern suggests instability is not localized, it's spreading through dimensional boundaries like cracks in glass. Cause remains unknown, but the effect is cumulative. The implications were terrifying. These weren't just random tears, they were symptoms of a spreading sickness in the fabric of reality. And he, fused with an interdimensional entity, was apparently the canary in the coal mine. He hurried away, the phantom scent clinging to him. Gym Beta felt less like a training ground and more like an interrogation chamber. Reinforced walls, sensor arrays humming softly, and the watchful eyes of Nizu from his elevated booth. All Might stood nearby, his expression a mixture of concern and professional focus. Today's test involved controlled energy containment, Izuku standing perfectly still while trying to manifest a controlled flicker of One for All's energy in his fingertip, simultaneously suppressing any slime manifestation. Sweat beaded on Izuku's forehead as he focused. The familiar furnace of OFA roared in his core, but it felt different. Warped. The golden light was threaded with chaotic purple and green streaks, the scars of the dimensional collision. Woven through it, Rimuru's cool blue-green core pulsed, tendrils constantly trying to patch the microfractures that seemed to perpetually form and reform. Trying to draw only a thread of OFA felt like trying to siphon a specific color from a violently swirling kaleidoscope. A tiny spark, more greenish-yellow than pure gold, finally crackled at his fingertip. It sputtered erratically. Simultaneously, the skin around his fingernail shimmered faintly blue-green, threatening to liquefy. Suppression required on secondary manifestation, Rimuru instructed coolly. Focus. Visualize the barrier. Izuku clenched his jaw, pouring his will into containing the slime essence. The spark died. The blue-green sheen faded, leaving only a phantom coolness. He gasped, trembling from the effort. It felt like holding back a tidal wave with a teacup. Fluctuation contained, but energy signature remains unstable and hybridized. Nizu's voice crackled over the intercom, devoid of its usual cheer. The secondary energy, the coolness, actively resisted suppression, attempting to stabilize the OFA discharge from within. Fascinating symbiosis, yet volatile. Proceed to tactile simulation. A small, articulated drone arm extended from the ceiling, holding a piece of ordinary scrap metal. Midoriya-kun lightly touched the metal. Observe any instinctive reaction from either energy source. Do not activate anything consciously. Izuku reached out, his finger trembling. As his skin brushed the cool steel, a jolt ran through him. Not pain. Hunger. A sudden, primal urge emanating from the deepest layer of his fused core, where Rimuru's predator essence tangled with OFA's raw power. It was a visceral pull, a desire to consume, to analyze, to make the metal part of him. He yanked his hand back as if burned. Sorry, he stammered, clutching his hand to his chest. It tingled weirdly. Instinctive predator response triggered by direct contact with inorganic material, Rimuru analyzed, a hint of chagrin in his mental tone. Minimal. Suppressed. But the impulse is becoming more pronounced as the fusion deepens. Caution advised with unfamiliar substances. All Might frowned. Tingled? Describe it, young Midoriya. Like static? But deeper? Like my bones vibrated, Izuku lied, the taste of metal lingering on his tongue, a phantom sensation. He could still feel the echo of that predatory urge, cold and alien. Before All Might could press further, a shrill alarm blared through the gym, echoing the one Izuku knew was sounding across the entire campus. Nizu's image vanished from the booth monitor, replaced by flashing red symbols and a map of Muzutafu. A section near the industrial district pulsed urgently. All Might, Midoriya-kun, remain here. Nizu's voice, sharp and commanding, replaced the intercom feed. Security Level 3 breach. Unidentified hostile entity reported near the old Seiko warehouses. Multiple pro-heroes en route. Izuku's blood ran cold. Hostile entity. The microfractures, the spreading instability. Something had come through. Magic sense overloading. Rimuru's mental voice cut through the alarm, sharp with urgency. Massive spatial tear detected at the reported coordinates. Energy signature matches the beach breach but magnified exponentially. Accompanying biosignature, large, predatory, non-terrestrial. Wyvern class equivalent. Danger. A wyvern? Like a dragon? Panic ward with a terrifying surge of adrenaline. People were in danger. Heroes were mobilizing. And he was stuck in Gym Beta, a contained anomaly himself. All Might, sir. Please. Izuku blurted out, turning to his mentor, eyes wide with desperation. I can sense it. The thing that came through. It's like the energy from the beach. Maybe my mutation lets me understand it? Track it? It was a gamble, weaving truth into a desperate plea. I might be able to help. All Might's gaunt face tightened. He looked from Izuku's pleading eyes to the flashing alarm on the monitor, then towards the sealed gym door. The symbol of peace was needed, but the boy he'd entrusted with his legacy was a walking question mark. The risk was immense. Young Midoriya, All Might began, his voice heavy. Nizu is authorizing perimeter lockdown, Rimuru reported swiftly. All exits sealed. We are confined. Izuku's shoulders slumped. Of course. He was a liability, not an asset. He watched helplessly as All Might straightened, a flicker of his old resolve returning to his eyes despite his frail form. Stay here, my boy, All Might commanded, his voice regaining a sliver of its former strength. Recovery girl will be here shortly. Trust the pros to handle this. He moved towards the door, which hissed open for him before sealing shut again with a heavy clunk, leaving Izuku alone under the watchful sensors. Frustration and helplessness crashed over him. He slammed a fist against his thigh. They need help. And I'm stuck in here. Agreed. However, direct confrontation is currently impossible. Recommend alternative strategy. Passive observation and analysis. Utilize our unique sensory capabilities. Rimuru's voice was pragmatic. Focus your magic sense outward, Izuku. Push beyond the gym walls. I will amplify and interpret. We may gather critical intelligence. Taking a shaky breath, Izuku closed his eyes. He pushed past the immediate hum of the gym sensors, past the muffled sounds of the lockdown. He focused on the feel of the world outside, guided by Rimuru's presence. Slowly, agonizingly, his perception expanded. He felt the frantic energy signatures of rushing heroes, Endeavor's blazing inferno, Edgeshot's razor-sharp focus, the solid earthiness of Kamui Woods. And there, at the epicenter near the warehouses, a gaping wound in reality, pulsing with sickly purple and green light. And within that wound, radiating primal fury and alien hunger, the Wyvern. He saw it through the distortion of spatial energy and Rimuru's analysis. A creature easily the size of a bus, covered in thick, obsidian scales that shimmered with captured starlight. Leathery wings, torn at the edges as if shredded during transit, beat erratically, sending gales of dust and debris swirling. Its head was a nightmare of horns and spines, jaws lined with serrated fangs dripping molten-looking saliva that sizzled on the concrete below. Its eyes, burning with malevolent yellow light, scanned the encroaching heroes with unnerving intelligence. It wasn't just an animal, it was a predator from a harsher dimension, disoriented and enraged. Entity designation, void-touched wyvern, tentative. Physiology, enhanced durability, scales, potential energy-based breath weapon, thermal signature in throat sac, flight-capable, injured. Threat level tie. Cognitive function, present, agitated. Motivations, survival, territory establishment, possibly drawn by dense energy sources. Izuku watched the mental feed like a horrifying movie. Endeavor unleashed a torrent of fire. The wyvern roared, a sound that vibrated through Izuku's bones even miles away, and countered with a stream of crackling purple energy that clashed violently with the flames, creating a concussive blast. Edgeshot shot forward, aiming for the eyes, but the wyvern's tail, tipped with a spiked club, whipped around with impossible speed, forcing the ninja hero to dodge frantically. Kamui Wood's bindings were shrugged off like cobwebs, the scales deflecting the wood with ease. They're struggling. Izuku gasped aloud, his knuckles white. Its scales are too strong. Its energy blast is overpowering Endeavor's fire. Analysis correct, Rimuru confirmed. Conventional attacks show limited efficacy. Its dimensional origin grants it resistance to native energy types. Weakness may lie in the wing membranes or joints, but closing distance is hazardous. He learns. As if to prove Rimuru's point, the wyvern anticipated Kamui Wood's next binding attempt, blasting the ground where the hero would manifest with its purple energy, forcing a retreat. It was adapting fast. Suddenly, the wyvern's head snapped towards a half-collapsed warehouse. Its nostrils flared. A new energy signature flickered on the edge of Izuku's senses, faint, terrified. Civilians. A small group of factory workers who hadn't evacuated in time, huddled in the wreckage, their fear a bright beacon to the alien predator. The wyvern abandoned its duel with the heroes, its powerful legs launching it towards the warehouse with terrifying speed, smashing through a weakened wall. The heroes' shouts of alarm were distant screams in Izuku's. Enhanced perception. Priority shift. Hostiles targeting civilians. Rimuru's voice was urgent, devoid of its usual calm analysis. Heroes cannot intercept in time. Izuku was on his feet before he realized it, drawn to the large gym monitor Nizu had left active. It showed a shaky feed from a news helicopter, the wyvern plunging into the warehouse, dust billowing, the screams of the trapped workers audible even through the feed. All Might was on screen now, arriving in a gust of wind, but even he couldn't be everywhere at once. The wyvern's spiked tail rose, poised to smash down on a group huddled behind shattered machinery. No! The cry tore from Izuku's throat. Power surged within him, a tidal wave of panic and desperate need to act. Golden energy crackled wildly over his skin. Simultaneously, the cool blue-green essence flared, not suppressing, but merging with the OFA surge in response to his overwhelming will to protect. It wasn't controlled, it was a raw, instinctive blast. A bolt of energy, not gold, not blue-green, but a searing, unstable white, shot from Izuku's outstretched hand. It wasn't aimed at anything in the gym. It tore through the reinforced wall of gym beta like paper, leaving a smoldering, jagged hole roughly the size of a basketball. Outside, the sky was visible. Silence descended in the gym, broken only by the crackle of melting composite material and the distant wail of sirens. Izuku stared at the hole, then at his hand, smoke curling from his fingertips. The sensor arrays screamed bloody murder. Uncontrolled spatial displacement. Rimuru's analysis was frantic. Instinctive fusion of OFA force and my spatial manipulation. Targeted? Towards the wyvern's location? Izuku didn't wait. He didn't think. The hole was an exit. The civilians needed help. The monstrous urge to protect overrode every order, every fear of exposure. He dashed forward, diving headfirst through the smoldering breach before the gym's security protocols could fully activate. The world blurred. He didn't run, he flowed. His legs pumped with enhanced speed fueled by OFA, but his movement felt different, smoother, more efficient, almost liquid. The cool slime essence seemed to lubricate his joints, reduce friction. He wasn't just moving fast, he was sliding through the air, covering blocks in heartbeats, guided by the pull of the wyvern's violent energy signature and the screams of terror. He arrived at the warehouse district in a spray of gravel, skidding to a halt near the gaping hole the wyvern had made. The scene was chaos. Endeavor was trading blasts with the creature at the far end, keeping it momentarily distracted from the civilians trapped near the collapsed entrance Izuku faced. Debris rained down. Dust choked the air. 5 workers, 2 men, 2 women, and a teenager were pinned under a fallen steel girder, desperately trying to shield themselves as smaller chunks of concrete fell around them. The wyvern, sensing Endeavor's momentary distraction, turned its massive head back towards the easier prey, its maw opening, purple energy gathering in its throat. No time. No thought. Only action. Izuku moved. He didn't use a Detroit smash. He didn't have the control. Instead, fueled by pure adrenaline and the fused power screaming within him, he flowed forward. His body felt less solid, more adaptable. He slid under the falling debris with impossible flexibility, a faint blue-green shimmer trailing his movements. He reached the pinned civilians just as the wyvern unleashed its energy blast. It wasn't aimed directly at them, but the sheer concussive force of the blast wave would crush them and bring the rest of the unstable structure down on their heads. Izuku planted himself between the blast wave and the trapped group. He crossed his arms, bracing not just with OFA's power, but with a desperate, instinctive command to his entire being: protect. Golden energy flared, interwoven with strands of cool blue-green light. Instead of a solid barrier, the energy rippled outward from his arms, forming a shimmering, semi-translucent dome that absorbed the concussive force like a wave hitting a rubber membrane. It flexed violently, cracks of white energy spiderwebbing across its surface, but it held. The shockwave dissipated around them, showering them with dust but leaving them unharmed. Behind him, the civilians gasped, staring at the glowing boy who'd appeared like a phantom. Defensive skill manifested, barrier, energy absorption field. Fusion of OFA kinetic dispersion and my magic defense principles. Highly inefficient energy expenditure. Rimuru reported, his voice strained. Wyvern is reorienting. Threat imminent. The wyvern, enraged by the interference, let out an ear-splitting roar and lunged, not with energy, but physically, its massive clawed foot aiming to crush Izuku and the civilians in one stomp. Its speed was terrifying. Izuku saw only shadow and scale descending. He couldn't dodge without abandoning the civilians. He couldn't block the sheer mass. Panic, cold and absolute, seized him. His mind screamed. The fused power within him, reacting to the primal threat of annihilation and his desperate need to survive, reacted instinctively. Not defense. Defense. Not OFA. Predator. His right arm shot up, not in a punch, but palm open. Not to push. To consume. A torrent of viscous, shimmering blue-green slime, thicker and more purposeful than the accidental burst in Gym Gamma, erupted from his palm. It didn't just hit the descending foot, It engulfed the massive claws and the lower part of the scaled limb in a fraction of a second. There was a horrific, wet sizzling sound, like acid on metal, but infinitely faster. The wyvern shrieked, a sound of pure agony and alien terror, trying to recoil. But it was too late. The slime pulsed with a hungry light. The obsidian scales dissolved on contact. The thick hide beneath liquefied. Tendons and bone vanished into the shimmering mass. In less than 2 heartbeats, the entire lower portion of the wyvern's leg, from the claws halfway up its massive shin, was simply gone. Erased. Absorbed. The slime snapped back into Izuku's palm, carrying with it the horrifying echo of the wyvern's pain and a flood of raw data, scale density, muscle structure, the unique energy signature of its dimensional origin. He staggered back, clutching his arm, gasping as the alien sensations flooded his mind. The phantom limb ached. And sick. The wyvern crashed to the ground beside them, missing a leg, shrieking. In agony and confusion, its massive body thrashing. The immediate crushing threat was gone, replaced by a writhing, critically injured behemoth. Izuku stood frozen, staring at his hand. No slime. No residue. Just the faintest blue-green glow fading from his skin. But the warehouse was suddenly silent except for the wyvern's agonized cries and the ragged breathing of the civilians. Endeavor stood frozen mid-charge, flames guttering out, staring at Izuku with a mixture of shock and utter disbelief. Edge shot materialized nearby, his usual stoicism shattered. Kamui Woods lowered his bindings, stunned. They had all seen it. The glowing barrier. The impossible slime. The dissolution of the wyvern's leg. Izuku met Endeavor's burning gaze. The number 1 hero's expression wasn't just surprised, it was deeply suspicious, bordering on accusation. The secret wasn't just out, it had been broadcast in the most horrifying way possible, saving lives at the cost of revealing something monstrous. Absorption complete, Rimuru's voice cut through the ringing silence in Izuku's mind, clinical despite the gravity. Materials, biomineralized scales, hyperdense muscle tissue, dimensional corrupted bone matrix. Analysis underway. Threat neutralized, but host status, critically compromised. Social fallout imminent. Izuku felt the weight of their stares, heroes, civilians, and undoubtedly, cameras broadcasting live. The coolness inside him warred with a hot wave of shame and terror. He had saved them. He had used the monster within him to do it. And now, the world knew. Bakugo's words echoed in his mind, amplified 1,000-fold. Freak. Monster. He looked down at his hand again, the hand that had erased a limb. What had he become? Chapter 5. Hero or Demon? The silence after the wyvern's agonized shriek was deafening. Dust motes danced in the S of light piercing the ruined warehouse roof. The smell of ozone, burnt metal, and something alien hung heavy. Izuku Midoriya stood frozen, arm outstretched, palm tingling with the phantom echo of dissolution. He could still feel the wrongness of the absorption, the rush of data, scale tensile strength, extreme, muscle fiber density, 8x human maximum, dimensional resonance signature, unstable, corrupted, the chilling satisfaction of a primal hunger sated, the sheer alienness of the wyvern's pain echoing in his mind. It warred violently with the relief of seeing the civilians unharmed behind his shimmering, now fading barrier. Then the world rushed back in. Endeavor's flames flickered lower, his face a mask of stunned disbelief etched into his scarred features. Edgeshot, usually an immovable statue of composure, had materialized fully, his eyes wide behind his mask. Kamui Woods lowered his wooden bindings, staring at the spot where the wyvern's lower leg had simply ceased to exist. The civilians stared at Izuku, their expressions shifting from terror to awe to a dawning, unsettling confusion. Who was this green-haired boy who glowed and made monsters disappear? And then the clicks. The whirring lenses. The news helicopter hovering outside, its camera undoubtedly zoomed in on the scene, broadcasting the impossible to the world. Izuku slowly lowered his hand, clenching it into a fist to hide the faint blue-green luminescence still fading from his skin. His heart hammered against his ribs like a frantic bird. Exposed. Totally exposed. Social compromise. Maximum. Rimuru's voice cut through the panic, analytical but laced with a tension Izuku had rarely felt. Live media coverage confirms visual evidence of non-standard abilities, barrier manifestation and targeted organic matter dissolution. Standard hero protocols will prioritize containment and interrogation. Recommend immediate disengagement and return to UA jurisdiction if possible. Disengage? He was surrounded by pro-heroes and the world was watching. Endeavor took a step forward, his heavy boots crunching on debris. The suspicion in his eyes had hardened into something colder, sharper. "You," Endeavor's voice boomed, cutting through the residual ringing in Izuku's ears. "Student. Midoriya, wasn't it? His problem child." His gaze swept over the smoldering hole where the leg had been, then back to Izuku. "Explain that." What was that?" Izuku's mouth felt like sandpaper. His carefully constructed lie about uncontrolled quirk mutation felt flimsy as wet tissue paper against the reality they'd all just witnessed. He'd shot energy through a reinforced gym wall miles away, acted a barrier that absorbed a concussive blast and dissolved part of a giant monster. He stammered, his voice cracking. The mutation, he reacted to the threat. Mutation. Endeavor scoffed, a plume of steam escaping his nostrils. "That wasn't a mutation, boy. That was something else." His eyes narrowed. Did All Might know about this? Before Izuku could formulate a response, sirens wailed closer. Police cruisers screeched to a halt outside, followed by a familiar skeletal figure pushing through the cordon, All Might, his face pale with exertion and profound worry. He took in the scene, the injured wyvern thrashing weakly, the terrified civilians, the smoldering warehouse, Endeavor looming over a trembling Izuku, and the hovering news chopper. "Endeavor!" All Might called, his voice strained but carrying authority. He moved swiftly, placing himself subtly between the flame hero and Izuku. Status report. Civilians? Unharmed thanks to intervention, Endeavor growled, jerking his chin towards Izuku, his tone dripping with implication. "But we have a bigger problem. Your successor seems to have developed talents beyond broken bones." All Might's gaze snapped to Izuku, taking in his ragged appearance, the faint smoke still curling from his fingertips, the sheer panic in his eyes. The unspoken question hung heavy. "What happened? What did you do?" "Young Midoriya requires medical attention," All Might stated firmly, turning his back on Endeavor, his large hand gripping Izuku's shoulder. It was a protective gesture, but Izuku could feel the tension in his mentor's grip. "We will debrief at UA under Principal Nizu's supervision. This is a UA matter." Endeavor's flames flared briefly. "That display was a public matter, All Might. That power, it's unnatural. Dangerous. All power carries responsibility, Endeavor," All Might retorted, his voice low but steely. "And its nature will be investigated. Properly. Now, if you'll excuse us, the boy needs care." He began steering Izuku towards the waiting police and UA security personnel who had arrived with him, creating a human shield against the cameras and Endeavor's burning glare. The ride back to it was a blur of flashing lights and suffocating silence. All Might sat beside Izuku in the secure UA vehicle, his expression unreadable. He didn't ask questions. He just stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. The weight of his disappointment, his confusion, his fear for Izuku and the legacy of One for All was a tangible force in the cramped space. All Might's biosignatures indicate extreme stress, elevated heart rate, cortisol spike, suppressed anger, profound concern, Rimuru reported. He is grappling with the implications. The trust deficit is significant. Izuku hugged himself, staring at his hands. They looked normal. No slime, no glow. But he could still feel the phantom pull, the echo of the predator's hunger. He felt monstrous. Bakugo's taunts echoed, freak. Monster. He'd proven it to the world. The next day, media storm. The news exploded. Headlines screamed, UA student's monstrous quirk. Hero or hazard? Mysterious green savior. Dissolves monster leg. All Might's successor. What is the truth behind the mutation? Clips of the warehouse incident looped endlessly, Izuku diving through the hole in the gym wall, already dubbed the Phantom Escape, the shimmering barrier deflecting the blast wave, the horrific, swift dissolution of the wyvern's limb. Pundits debated fiercely. Was this a new evolution of One for All? A dangerous side effect? Was Midoriya Izuku a hero in the making, or a walking bioweapon? Conspiracy theories bloomed like toxic fungi, secret government experiments, alien hybridization, possession by a villain's quirk. On campus, the atmosphere was electric with tension and morbid curiosity. Whispers followed Izuku everywhere. Classmates who had been wary before now actively avoided him or stared with open fear. Uraraka tried to offer a hesitant smile, but it faltered under the weight of the news. Ida looked conflicted, torn between friendship and protocol. Todoroki observed him with unnerving intensity. And Bakugo just smirked, a cruel, vindicated twist of his lips. Told you, Deku, he muttered as they passed in the hall. Walking disaster. They'll lock you up soon. The only reprieve was the scheduled joint training exercise with Class 1B. Nizu, in his inscrutable wisdom, had decided it would proceed as planned, albeit with enhanced safety protocols. Izuku suspected it was less about training and more about observing him under controlled pressure. Gym Gamma, joint training exercise. The air in the massive gym crackled with a different kind of tension. Class 1A and 1B faced each other across the designated urban simulation zone. Vlad King's booming voice outlined the exercise. Capture the opposing team's flag within the complex mock city. Monoma, ever the instigator, immediately launched into his usual spiel about Class A's undeserved fame, but his eyes kept flicking towards Izuku with a mix of fascination and apprehension. All right, problem child, Aizawa's tired voice cut through the pre-exercise chatter. He stood beside Izuku, his capture weapon loose but ready, his eyes glowing faintly red even without activating erasure. He was Izuku's designated supervisor. Standard rules. No excessive force. And try very hard not to dissolve any more school property or people. Understood? Izuku flinched. Weiss-sensei. Heightened surveillance, Rimuru noted. Aizawa Shota is on high alert. Recommend minimal quirk usage. Focus on strategy and support. But even as Rimuru said it, Izuku felt the churning unease within their fused core. The recent stress, the media frenzy, the constant suppression, it was making the merged energies restless, volatile. The exercise began. Chaos erupted as quirks flared. Todoroki froze entire streets, Yaoyorozu created barricades, Kaminari unleashed controlled blasts of electricity. From Class B, Tetsu clashed with Kirishima in a shower of sparks, Hananuki softened the ground under Ashido's feet, and Shiozaki's vines snaked through the simulated buildings. Izuku tried to stay back, focusing on analysis, feeding information to his team via comms, using his enhanced magic sense to track enemy movements. He felt Aizawa's gaze like a physical weight. Magic sense detects anomalous energy signatures. Rimuru's alert was sudden and sharp. Multiple points. Within the simulation zone. Spatial resonance spiking. Matching wyvern breach parameters. Before Izuku could shout a warning, the air ripped. Not one, but half a dozen jagged tears, the size of doorways, appeared scattered throughout the mock city. Sickly purple-green light spilled out, accompanied by a chorus of chittering roars and the clatter of chitinous limbs. Creatures poured forth. Not another wyvern, but smaller, faster horrors. Insectoid things with too many legs and snapping mandibles dripping corrosive saliva. Floating, jellyfish-like entities trailing stinging tendrils that crackled with unstable energy. Hulking, armored beasts that moved with surprising speed, their hides shimmering with the same unnatural light as the wyvern scales. They were smaller than the wyvern, but numerous, disoriented, and immediately aggressive, lashing out at the closest targets, the students. Panic erupted. The carefully structured exercise dissolved into a desperate battle for survival. What the hell are those? Kaminari yelled, zapping a scuttling insectoid that hissed and recoiled, but didn't go down. Focus fire. Don't let them surround you. Vlad King bellowed, smashing one creature aside with a hardened fist, grimacing as corrosive spit sizzled on his arm. "They're resistant," Tetsu shouted, his steel skin dented by a claw swipe from an armored beast. A floating jellyfish lashed out with a tendril towards Tsuyu, who leaped back with a startled croak. The tendril struck the ground where she'd been, leaving a smoldering, glassy crater. Izuku saw Uraraka, trying to float debris for cover, targeted by 3 scuttling insectoids. Ida was rushing towards her, but he wouldn't make it in time. Fear for his friend overrode every caution, every order. Uraraka Achiko, immediate threat. Rimuru's warning coincided with Izuku's own surge of panic. He didn't think. He moved. OFA flared in his legs, but the movement felt different, smoother, faster, propelled not just by raw power but by an instinctive liquid agility granted by Rimuru's slime essence. He blurred. Across the distance, a streak of green and faint blue light. "Deku!" Uraraka gasped as he slammed into the lead insectoid, not with a punch, but with a shoulder check that felt unnaturally fluid. The creature skittered back, unharmed but startled. The other 2 lunged. Izuku twisted, dodging snapping mandibles with impossible flexibility. He needed to protect Uraraka, neutralize the threat, but direct contact risked absorption. The hunger stirred, sensing viable prey. He couldn't. He wouldn't. Alternative solution available, Rimuru's voice cut through the panic. Accessing OFA vestige, Black Whip. Synergize with Predator's isolation field. Target containment, not assimilation. Black Whip? The dark tendrils of energy wielded by the 5th user? He'd barely touched that power, only felt its desperate rage during the sports festival. But the instinct was there, buried deep within One for All's tapestry, now intertwined with Rimuru's analytical control. He focused, not on anger, but on desperate need. Need to protect. Need to restrain. Need to isolate the threat. He reached deep into the swirling vortex of mutated OFA, past the golden tempest and the blue-green lattice, towards the dark, thrashing current that was Black Whip. Rimuru's presence flowed alongside him, not suppressing, but guiding, applying the cold precision of Predator's isolation field concept. Izuku's right arm shot out. But instead of dark tendrils erupting chaotically, they burst forth sheathed in a shimmering, translucent blue-green energy. They weren't just energy, they looked viscous, like solidified slime molded into whip-like forms. They crackled with contained power, emitting a low, predatory hum. Predator Whip. The name tore from his lips, unbidden, a fusion of instinct and Rimuru's tactical designation. The tendrils lashed out with terrifying speed and precision. One wrapped around the torso of an insectoid lunging at Uraraka, the other snared the leg of the second. Where the shimmering blue-green energy touched the creature's exoskeletons, it didn't dissolve them. Instead, it sealed them. The energy hardened instantly into a crackling, semi-transparent cocoon, trapping the creatures mid-lunge. They struggled violently inside their prisons, mandibles clicking uselessly against the energy field, corrosive spit sizzling harmlessly on its surface. Isolated. Contained. Neutralized. Izuku stood panting, his arm outstretched, the predator whips retracting back into his palm, the blue-green sheen fading. He'd done it. He'd used the fusion power, without destroying. He'd protected Uraraka. Silence fell in his immediate vicinity. Uraraka stared at him, eyes wide with shock and relief. Ida skidded to a halt beside her, his engines whining down, staring at the contained creatures, then at Izuku's hand. Nearby, Todoroki had frozen a floating jellyfish solid, but his heterochromatic eyes were fixed on Izuku, narrowed with intense scrutiny. Minoma, peeking from behind a mock building, looked utterly dumbfounded. Across the gym, high in the observation booth, Aizawa's knuckles were white where he gripped the railing. His erasure was active, his eyes blazing red, but it had done nothing to the shimmering whips. He'd seen it all. The impossible speed, the fluid movement, the controlled manifestation of a power that looked nothing like One for All, yet undeniably stemmed from it. Containment, not destruction. But the method, the look of it, was deeply unsettling. All might, watching from beside Nizu, felt a cold dread seep into his bones. He recognized the dark tendrils, Black Whip. But the sheathing energy, the precision, the name, that was new. That was other. That was the mutation, taken to a terrifyingly controlled level. His successor was wielding a power he didn't understand, born from a fusion he couldn't comprehend. The line between hero and something else was blurring dangerously. The battle against the remaining dimensional beasts raged around them, but for Izuku, the world had shrunk to the two contained monsters, his trembling hand, and the crushing weight of the stares upon him, his friends, his rivals, his teachers. He had used Rimuru's power deliberately. He had saved Uraraka. But he'd also shown them a glimpse of something undeniably alien, undeniably powerful, and undeniably frightening. The predator whips had contained the beasts, but they had also cracked open the fragile container holding his secret. The question wasn't just whispered anymore. It hung heavy in the air, asked by every pair of eyes locked on him, screamed by the silence after his desperate cry. Hero? Or demon? Chapter 6, Core Breach. The aftermath of the joint training exercise hung over UA like a suffocating fog. Whispers followed Izuku Midoriya everywhere, no longer just curious murmurs but laced with tangible fear and suspicion. The contained beasts, shimmering in their predator whip cocoons until removed by specialized hazard teams, were a constant, chilling reminder. He'd saved Uraraka, protected classmates, but the method, the viscous, crackling whips, the name predator, the unsettling fusion of dark energy and blue-green containment, had branded him as something fundamentally other. Aizawa's supervision became a shadow, constant and unervingly silent. Training sessions were reduced to near meditative stillness under Nizu's watchful eye in Gym Beta, focused solely on suppressing any energy fluctuation. The message was clear: control or containment. The vibrant dream of heroism felt like it was crumbling under the weight of the monstrous secret he carried. Social isolation increasing, Rimuru observed, his mental voice a calm counterpoint to Izuku's churning anxiety. Aizawa showed us vigilance is at maximum. Physiological stress markers in all might remain elevated. The predator whip manifestation, while tactically successful, has significantly escalated perceived threat levels. I know, Izuku thought miserably, trudging back to the dorms after another grueling session of doing nothing but not letting his power leak. He'd seen Uraraka flinch slightly when he'd passed her in the hall earlier. Ida's greeting had been stiffly formal. Even Koda had avoided his gaze. Only Kirishima offered a hesitant fist bump, though his usual boisterousness was muted. They're scared of me, Rimuru. They think I'm turning into what Bakugo always said. Perception is a weapon, Rimuru replied, his tone analytical. Bakugo Katsuki exploits fear for dominance. His narrative aligns with their limited understanding of the fusion. Focus on stabilization. Our priority remains preventing biological degradation and understanding the fracture points. The fracture points. That was the new, terrifying reality. Since the warehouse incident and the forced use of Predator Whip, the delicate balance within Izuku's core felt increasingly precarious. The golden ocean of one for all churned violently, its currents chaotic and laced with the corrosive purple-green energy of the dimensional breaches. Rimuru's blue-green core, once a steady anchor, now pulsed erratically. Fine, hairline cracks, like fissures in obsidian, had begun to spiderweb across its luminous surface. Core integrity at 87% and declining, Rimuru reported dispassionately during one of Izuku's attempts at focused meditation in his dorm room. The strain of suppressing volatile OFA surges while simultaneously patching dimensional contamination is exceeding my regenerative capacity. The fusion matrix itself is developing microfractures. Continued suppression is accelerating the damage. Accelerating? Izuku's eyes snapped open, panic flaring. What does that mean? What happens if it breaks? Catastrophic energy release, Rimuru stated bluntly. Best case scenario, permanent quirk singularity, rendering you inert or explosively unstable. Worst case, complete spiritual and physical dissolution for both entities. The fusion is symbiotic now. Our fates are inextricably linked. The cold finality of the words sent a shiver down Izuku's spine. Dissolution. Erasure. Not just his dream, but his very existence. And Rimuru's. The ancient, reincarnated slime who'd become his reluctant ally, his silent guide through this nightmare. The fear was no longer just about being seen as a monster, it was about ceasing to be. The physical manifestations started subtly. A faint blue-green translucence in his fingertips that vanished when he blinked. A strange, rubbery give to his forearm when he leaned on his desk, snapping back to solidity instantly. Moments of dizziness where his vision blurred, and the world seemed to wobble like jelly. He wrote them off as stress, exhaustion, tricks of the light. Until breakfast the next day. He was reaching for a carton of milk in the crowded dorm kitchen. Bakugo, predictably, slammed a cupboard door nearby, the sudden bang making Izuku jump. Stress spiked. Instinctively, OFA flared defensively in his arm. Simultaneously, Rimuru's regeneration surged to counter the cellular strain. The conflicting energies met at his elbow. Instead of pain or a spark, his entire lower arm liquefied. 1 second, he had a hand reaching for the milk carton. The next, his arm from the elbow down was a shimmering, translucent blue-green tendril, stretching almost comically towards the fridge before snapping back into a solid human limb with a soft schlup sound. The milk carton he'd been unconsciously gripping with the slime tendril dropped to the floor, splattering white across the tiles. Silence. Utter, profound silence. Sato froze, a spoonful of batter hovering over his mixing bowl. Ciro's tape unraveled midair. Kaminari's fork clattered onto his plate. Mineta stared, open-mouthed. Bakugo, turning away from the cupboard, caught the tail end of the transformation, his crimson eyes widening in genuine, unadulterated shock. Izuku stared at his perfectly normal, solid hand. The phantom sensation of malleability lingered. The spilled milk pooled around his feet. His face burned with a mixture of terror and utter humiliation. What the actual hell, Deku? Bakugo breathed, his voice uncharacteristically lacking its usual fury, replaced by pure disbelief. Did you just turn your arm into snot? Critical instability event. Rimuru's voice was sharp, urgent. Localized shapeshift triggered by stress-induced energy conflict. Social compromise imminent. I didn't, it slipped. Izuku stammered, the lameness of the excuse hanging heavy in the air. He scrambled to grab paper towels, his movements jerky with panic. Sorry about the milk. He fled the kitchen, the weight of their stares, confusion, revulsion, Bakugo's stunned scrutiny burning into his back. The whispers started before he even reached the stairs. Damage assessment, Rimuru reported as Izuku slammed his dorm room door shut, leaning against it, heart pounding. Core integrity, 83%. The glitching is a direct result of microfractures allowing unintended bleed-through of my slime physiology when OFA destabilizes. Suppression is no longer viable, it's causing the fractures to widen. What do we do? Izuku gasped, sinking to the floor. They saw Rimuru. Bakugo saw. It's only a matter of time before Aizawa or Niza finds out. And if my arm does that in Gym Beta? The thought of liquefying in front of All Might was too horrifying to contemplate. The path of secrecy is collapsing, Rimuru stated, his mental voice grave. The risk of uncontrolled dissolution during a critical event is now unacceptably high. Disclosure to a trusted authority may be the only option for survival. Analysis suggests All Might Yagi possesses the necessary understanding of OFA's legacy and has demonstrated protective intent despite confusion. Tell All Might. The idea was terrifying. Confessing to harboring a demon lord's consciousness? Admitting he was literally falling apart? What if All Might saw him as corrupted? What if he took OFA back? Or worse, had him locked away? But the alternative, the image of his hand dissolving permanently, or his entire body collapsing into a puddle of unstable slime during a villain attack, was worse. The glitching worsened. Later that day, during a mundane English class with present Mike, a wave of dizziness hit. His vision swam. When it cleared, he looked down and saw his textbook resting not on the desk, but embedded halfway into his thigh, which had turned momentarily translucent and gelatinous. He yelped, pulling the book free, earning a confused look from Mike and stifled giggles from the class. He mumbled an apology about being clumsy. Walking to the library, his foot sank ankle-deep into the solid corridor floor before snapping back, leaving no mark but a phantom coolness. He stumbled, catching himself against the wall, breathing heavily. Each incident chipped away at his sanity. He was losing control of his own body. The breaking point came that evening. He was alone in his room, trying desperately to meditate, to soothe the churning, fracturing core within. He focused on the image of All Might's smile, the symbol of peace, the reason he'd endured everything. But the image flickered, replaced by the wyvern's dissolving leg, the predator whips, his own liquefying arm. The pressure built, the pressure of the secret, the fear of dissolution, the crushing loneliness. Core integrity, 79%. Fracture propagation accelerating. Recommend immediate stop. Izuku didn't realize he'd screamed aloud until his own voice echoed in the small room. He slammed his fist onto his desk, not with OFA, but with raw, terrified frustration. Tears streamed down his face, hot and shameful. Just stop. I can't hold it. I'm breaking Rimuru. I'm falling apart. He gasped for air, his body trembling violently. They're going to see. They're going to know I'm a freak, a monster, a thing. He slumped forward, forehead pressed against the cool wood of the desk, sobs racking his frame. I just wanted to be a hero. The silence within his mind was profound. Not the usual analytical quiet, but a deep, resonant stillness. Then Rimuru's voice came, softer, devoid of its usual detached precision, carrying an echo of the immense age and burden he carried. Izuku Midoriya. This weight, it is too heavy for one soul to bear alone. Not even two, fused as we are. The fear of rejection is valid. The risk is real. But the path of silence now leads only to destruction. For both of us. For the legacy you carry. Trust is a leap of faith. But All Might Yagi has earned that leap, has he not? Izuku lifted his head, sniffling, tears blurring his vision. Trust All Might. The man who'd given him everything. The man who looked at him now with such profound worry. Could he? Did he have a choice? A soft knock on his door shattered the heavy silence. Young Midoriya? All Might's voice, uncharacteristically hesitant, came through the wood. I heard a shout. Is everything all right? Izuku froze. Panic warred with the desperate plea in Rimuru's words and his own crumbling resolve. This was it. The precipice. He could lie, stammer an excuse about a nightmare. Or he could jump. He took a shuddering breath, wiping his face roughly. See, come in, All Might. The door opened slowly. All Might stood there, not in his heroic form, but as Tashinori Yagi, looking gaunt and weary, his blue eyes filled with deep concern. He saw Izuku's tear-streaked face, the raw despair in his eyes. My boy, he stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. What's wrong? The strain, is it getting worse? Izuku couldn't speak. The words choked in his throat. He looked down at his hands, half expecting them to drip onto the floor. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then the dam broke. It's not just the mutation, All Might. The words tumbled out in a desperate, tearful rush. It's not just unstable one for all. There's someone else. Inside me. With me. All Might's eyes widened. He took a half step back, shock etching deep lines onto his face. Someone else. His name is Rimuru Tempest. Izuku cried, the secret he'd guarded so fiercely bursting forth. He was a great demon lord from another world. He got pulled through that rift on the beach when you gave me one for all. The energies collided and we fused. His consciousness, his core, it's embedded in one for all now. The slime, the analysis, the barrier, the dissolving, the whips, that's him. Or it's us. Together. And it's breaking All Might. His core is fracturing because one for all is so unstable and the dimensional energy is poisoning it and my body is glitching and turning into slime and I can't control it anymore and I'm so scared I'm going to dissolve or explode or hurt someone and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. I was scared you'd hate me, that you'd think I was corrupted, that you'd take one for all away or lock me up. He dissolved into sobs again, shoulders shaking, bracing for the rejection, the anger, the fear he was sure would come. Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Izuku dared to look up. All Might hadn't moved. His expression was unreadable, a complex storm of shock, confusion, and profound contemplation. He wasn't recoiling in horror. He wasn't reaching for a phone. He was thinking. Deeply. Rimuru Tempest. All Might finally murmured, the name foreign on his tongue. Great Demon Lord? From another dimension? Fused, with one for all? He ran a bony hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. Young Midoriya, that is an extraordinary burden. His gaze met Izuku's, searching. Rimuru, is he controlling you? Forcing you? No. Izuku said vehemently, shaking his head. Never. He's helping me. Or trying to. He analyzes threats, helps me understand the energy, tries to patch the damage. He stopped me from dissolving things accidentally before the gym. He guided me to use Black Whip safely. He wants to stabilize this as much as I do. He stuck to. And his core, it's breaking because of me. He gestured helplessly at himself. Because of this fusion. All Might was quiet again, his gaze distant, looking not at Izuku, but through him as if recalling something long buried. The silence stretched, punctuated only by Izuku's hitched breathing. Finally, All Might spoke, his voice low and filled with a strange kind of awe. Voices. Izuku blinked. The voices. All Might met his eyes again, a flicker of something profound in his gaze. Nana Shimura, my mentor, the seventh user of One for All, she told me something near the end. He paused, choosing his words carefully. She said she sometimes heard whispers. Faint echoes. Not her own thoughts. Like distant voices carried on the wind within the power itself. She thought it was just the weight of the legacy, the pressure. She never understood it clearly, never named them. But she heard them. Izuku's breath caught. Rimuru's presence within him seemed to still, listening intently. The vestiges, All Might continued, his voice gaining strength with the revelation. The spirits of the past users, they reside within One for All. We knew that. We've seen their manifestations. But what Nana described, it was different. Not a clear presence, like Banjo or the others can sometimes be. More ambient. Like an extra layer of consciousness woven into the quirk itself. He looked intently at Izuku. You hear one voice. Clearly. With a history entirely alien to this world. But what if One for All has always held the potential for this? Not just storing power, but connecting? Integrating? The implications slammed into Izuku. The ninth user, Nana Shimura, heard whispers too? Was Rimuru's. Fusion, not a corruption, but a horrifyingly dramatic realization of One for All's latent ability? Was the quirk itself evolving? Hypothesis, highly plausible, Rimuru's voice resonated, filled with sudden, intense analytical focus. One for All's nature as a cumulative power stockpile, passed through generations, inherently possesses a unique spiritual density. My interdimensional consciousness, fused during a moment of extreme energetic trauma, may have acted as a catalyst, forcing this latent integration potential to manifest prematurely and chaotically. The voices Nana Shimura heard could indeed be nascent, unformed echoes of this capability. All Might, are you saying? Izuku stammered, hope warring with disbelief. I'm saying, All Might said firmly, stepping forward and placing a large, reassuring hand on Izuku's trembling shoulder, that while this is beyond anything I could have imagined, it doesn't mean you are corrupted, young Midoriya. It means One for All, and you are facing a challenge unlike any other bearer before you. His grip tightened, his blue eyes blazing with conviction. You are not alone. And you are not a monster. You saved those civilians. You protected your classmates. You fight even when your very body rebels against you. That is the heart of a hero. Tears welled up again, but this time, They were tears of overwhelming relief. The crushing weight of the secret, the fear of rejection, lifted slightly. All Might didn't recoil. He offered understanding and belief. But his core, it's fracturing, Izuku whispered, the immediate danger returning. Rimuru says if it breaks, then we stabilize it, All Might stated, his voice resolute. Together. Rimuru. He said the name deliberately, acknowledging the presence within his successor. We'll find a way. We'll talk to Recovery Girl. We'll consult Nizu. We'll use every resource UA and I have. We won't let you dissolve, my boy. We won't let this power break you. He offered a smile, smaller than his usual dazzling grin, but filled with unwavering support. One for All chose you, Izuku Midoriya. And it seems, it chose an extraordinary path this time. We'll walk it together. Izuku looked up at his mentor, his idol, the symbol of peace who now knew his deepest, most terrifying secret and hadn't turned away. The fear wasn't gone. The danger wasn't past. His body still felt like a fragile shell holding a collapsing star. But he wasn't alone. He had All Might. And he had Rimuru. Core integrity, 78%, Rimuru reported, but his mental voice held a new note, something akin to cautious relief. Stabilization efforts now have a significantly higher probability of success with informed external support. Acknowledgement, All Might Yagi's response exceeds strategic projections. Heroic indeed. Izuku managed a shaky smile, wiping his tears. The path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, fraught with danger and the specter of his own body betraying him. But for the first time since the beach, since the voice in the dark, he felt a flicker of hope. They knew. And they weren't giving up on him. The fight to survive, to control the fusion, to remain Izuku Midoriya, hero in training, had just gained its most powerful ally. The core was breached, but it wasn't broken. Not yet. Chapter 7. Multiversal Fallout. The sterile, comforting scent of Recovery Girl's office was replaced by the ozone tang of high-energy scanners and the low hum of Nizu's most advanced monitoring equipment. Izuku sat on an examination bed, wires snaking from sensors on his temples and chest to banks of flickering displays. All Might stood beside him, a pillar of grim support, while Recovery Girl bustled nearby, her usual grumbling replaced by focused silence. Nizu perched on a console, his beady eyes missing nothing as data streamed across multiple screens. The weight of the secret was gone, replaced by the terrifying reality of their situation. All Might knew. Recovery Girl knew. Nizu, with his terrifying intellect, pieced together the implications within minutes of All Might's hushed explanation. The symbol of peace hadn't flinched, hadn't condemned. He'd offered unwavering belief and mobilized UA's resources with the speed of a wartime general. Now, they faced the ticking clock of Rimuru's fracturing core and the spreading cracks in reality itself. Core integrity stabilizing, marginally, Recovery Girl announced, squinting at a holographic display showing a shimmering, multifaceted gem, Rimuru's core, embedded within a swirling vortex of gold and chaotic purple-green. Hairline fractures still spiderwebbed its surface, but the frantic pulsing had subsided to a strained, rhythmic glow. The suppressants are dampening one for all's volatility, reducing the direct stress on the fusion point. But it's a stopgap, Toshinori. Not a solution. The dimensional contamination, she pointed to the invasive purple-green streaks polluting the OFA energy, is actively corrosive. It's like acid eating at the binding agent. Accurate analogy, Rimuru's voice resonated within the shared mindscape, audible only to Izuku but his presence a palpable tension in the room. The suppressants alleviate immediate degradation, but the root cause persists. The microfractures will widen again under duress. And the source of this contamination? The rifts, Izuku whispered aloud, clenching his fists. The villain causing them. Indeed. Nizu chirped, though his cheer was undercut by the grim data. Correlation is undeniable. Every major spatial anomaly coincides with a spike in the contaminant energy signature within young Midoriya and, by extension, Rimuru-san's core. This villain isn't just tearing holes. They're actively pumping destabilizing energy into our dimension, using the rifts as conduits. And the effect is cascading. A map of Muzutafu, then Japan, then the globe, flickered onto a main screen. Pinpricks of red light marked confirmed microbreaches near Dagoba, the warehouse district, UA itself, and now dozens more scattered seemingly at random, though Nizu's algorithms highlighted faint, converging energy trails. The breaches are becoming more frequent and larger, Nizu continued. The energy signatures are evolving, becoming more organized. And they're attracting entities. That wyvern was just the vanguard. My analysis suggests the villain is nearing the final stages of whatever catastrophic experiment they're conducting. The merger they seek isn't metaphorical. They're attempting to forcibly overlay sections of incompatible dimensions, creating zones of pure chaotic energy they believe they can HRSS. The image shifted to a simulation, two distinct grids, representing dimensions, violently colliding. At the point of impact, reality warped, frayed, and dissolved into a swirling vortex of destructive energy. The resulting energy release would be astronomical. City-destroying at the minimum, potentially continental or worse, depending on the scale and duration of the merger. A cold dread settled in the room. All Might's jaw tightened. Recovery Girl muttered a curse under her breath. Izuku felt Rimuru's core pulse with a surge of grim understanding. Such reckless dimensional manipulation. It mirrors forbidden rituals attempted by foolish sorcerers in my world, Rimuru thought, his mental voice laced with cold fury. The backlash always consumed them. But the collateral damage, entire regions reduced to crystallized wastelands or subsumed by unstable void space. We must locate the source. Immediately. But how? Izuku asked, voicing the room's question. The energy trails are faint, scattered. The villain's hidden. Standard tracking methods are insufficient against dimensional interference, Rimuru stated. However, the contamination within our fused core provides a unique vector. It resonates with the source. I possess high-level spatial magic, spatial domination, dimensional shift. In my world, I could trace such signatures across continents. The fusion, the damage, makes it incredibly risky. Risky how? All Might asked, his gaze fixed on Izuku, understanding the silent conversation. To perform such precise, long-range spatial sensing requires immersion, Rimuru explained. My consciousness needs temporary, near-total control of Izuku's biological and energetic systems. His mind would remain aware, but his motor functions, his quirk activation, they would be under my direct command. It is the only way to channel the necessary power and focus without the fusion matrix shattering under the strain of divided control. The risk to his psyche and core integrity during the process is significant. Izuku swallowed hard. Letting Rimuru take control fully? It was the thing he'd feared since the beach, the nightmare scenario Bakugo had taunted him with. But looking at the map, at the spreading red dots, at the simulation of annihilation, what choice was there? Do it, Izuku said, his voice firm despite the tremor in his hands. He met All Might's worried eyes. We have to stop them. If Rimuru thinks it's the only way, I trust him. All Might placed a large hand on Izuku's shoulder. The risks are immense, young Midoriya. Are you certain? No, Izuku admitted honestly. But I'm more certain that if we don't try, everyone loses. Rimuru, I'm ready. He closed his eyes, focusing inward. Do what you need to do. Acknowledgement. Rimuru's voice was devoid of its usual analytical tone, replaced by a focused solemnity. Preparing for spatial resonance trace. Initiating full synchronization protocol. Brace yourself, Izuku Midoriya. The world didn't go dark. It shifted. Izuku felt a sudden, profound stillness within his own mind. He was still there, aware, observing, but detached. Like watching a movie from the front row. He felt his body straighten on the bed, his breathing deepen and slow to an inhumanly steady rhythm. His eyes opened, but the green irises now swirled with intense, luminous blue light. A faint, cool blue-green aura, visible even to the naked eye, wreathed his body. The sensors attached to him spiked erratically, then stabilized at readings far beyond human norms. Rimuru. Recovery girl breathed, taking an involuntary step back. The figure that was Izuku, yet not, turned its head towards her. The movement was smooth, precise, utterly lacking Izuku's characteristic nervous energy. Affirmative, the voice was Izuku's, but the inflection, the cadence, was different, calmer, older, carrying an undercurrent of immense power. Temporary operational control established. Do not interfere. Monitoring Izuku Midoriya's vitals is paramount. Nisa's paws flew over the controls, redirecting sensors. Fascinating. Biosignatures show unprecedented neural activity and energy coherence. Proceed with caution. Rimuru Izuku raised a hand. The air crackled. Not with lightning, but with the sound of stressed reality. Blue-green energy, intricate and complex as circuit boards made of light, coalesced around the outstretched fingers. He closed his eyes. Izuku, watching, felt the intense focus like a physical pressure. The energy pulsed outwards in a wave, not a blast, but a probing resonance. In Izuku's shared perception, the world dissolved into a tapestry of energy. The solid walls of UA became translucent grids. The people in the room shone like beacons of complex biological energy. Outside, the city was a vibrant, chaotic sea of quirks, technology, and life forces. But overlaid on this was a sickly, invasive network, the purple-green contamination. It pulsed like diseased veins across the landscape, converging. Rimuru Izuku frowned. Interference. Heavy damping field. Origin point shielded by anomalous spatial folding. Crude but effective. The blue-green energy around his hand intensified, swirling into complex fractal patterns. Compensating. Filtering resonance through OFA conduit, amplifying via core harmonics. Izuku felt it, a deep, resonant thrum emanating from the fused core within him. Rimuru was using one for all not as a weapon, but as a tuning fork, vibrating in harmony with the invasive energy, forcing it to reveal its source. The strain was immense. Izuku felt the fractures in Rimuru's core groan under the pressure, felt his own body tremble, muscles threatening to liquefy. He focused all his will on stability, on being an anchor. Rimuru's mental voice cut through the strain. A surge of triumph. On the energy tapestry, deep beneath the industrial district, near the epicenter of the warehouse wyvern attack, a dense knot of corrupted energy flared like a malignant star. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the tears spreading across the globe. Surrounding it, Izuku sensed other familiar, chilling signatures: the decay, the hatred, the void. League of Villains. Primary signature matches previous breach initiator. Secondary signature, Tamura Shigaraki. Location confirmed. Subbasement level, abandoned Nishitani Heavy Industries geothermal plant. Defenses, advanced spatial dampeners, likely biomechanical constructs, high concentration of dimensional contamination. Rimuru Izuku's hand snapped down. The complex energy dissipated. The blue light faded from his eyes, replaced by Izuku's familiar green, now wide with exhaustion and the residual echo of Rimuru's perception. He slumped forward, gasping, sweat pouring down his face. The phantom sensation of his body threatening to dissolve lingered. Got it, Izuku rasped, shuddering. Nishitani plant, deep underground. Leaks there. Shigaraki too. He relayed the details Rimuru had imprinted on his mind. The dampeners, the constructs, the overwhelming contamination. Excellent work, both of you, Nisa declared, his eyes gleaming with strategic fire. Recovery girl, stabilize him. All Might, alert the heroes. We mobilize immediately. This ends tonight. UA shifted into high gear, a well-oiled machine transitioning from school to fortress to staging ground. Sirens wailed a muted alert within the campus perimeter. Pro heroes, Endeavor, Edgeshot, Best Jeanist, Mirko, Ryukyu, materialized in the briefing room, summoned by Nizu's encrypted priority channels. Their faces were grim, etched with the gravity Nizu conveyed. Class 1A, minus Bakugo, confined to his room under strict watch after his latest outburst, stood at attention, clad in their hero costumes. The atmosphere was electric with tension, fear, and fierce determination. They'd seen the news. They knew what was at stake. They'd also seen Izuku's terrifying power firsthand. Whispers had spread about his episode in the nurse's office, the strange aura, the impossible trace. Suspicion warred with burgeoning trust. He'd saved them. He was fighting something monstrous within himself. Now, he held the key to stopping the real monsters. The target is the Nishitani geothermal plant, Nizu stated, holographic schematics displaying the labyrinthine underground complex. Intel confirms it's the epicenter of the dimensional breaches. Hostiles include the League of Villains, led by Tamura Shigaraki, and an unknown villain scientist orchestrating the dimensional experiments. Expect heavy resistance, biomechanical constructs, and environmental hazards from extreme dimensional contamination. He pointed a paw at the map. All Might, Endeavor, Ryukyu, Team Alpha. You breach the main geothermal chamber, believed to house the primary dimensional device. Maximum force authorized. Edge shot, Best Genist, Mirko, Team Beta. Secure auxiliary tunnels, neutralize constructs, prevent reinforcements or escape. Eraserhead, Vlad King, Team Gamma. Protect and escort the students. Their role is reconnaissance, containment of minor breaches, and evacuation support. Under no circumstances are they to engage Shigaraki or the primary device without XPLCT orders. Am I clear? A chorus of grim affirmations answered him. Midoriya. Nizu turned his sharp gaze to Izuku. He looked pale but resolute in his green costume. You are with Team Gamma. Your unique sensory capabilities are vital for detecting hidden breaches and contamination hotspots. Rimuru-san's analytical support will be crucial. However, Nizu's voice hardened. Your primary objective is survival and stability. Avoid direct combat unless absolutely necessary. Your condition is volatile. An uncontrolled fusion event in that contaminated environment could be catastrophic. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Izuku said, his voice tight. He understood the unspoken fear, that he might become the bomb they were trying to defuse. Understood, Rimuru echoed internally. Prioritize detection and guidance. Combat engagement only as last resort. Core integrity currently at 74%. Fluctuations likely in high contamination zone. As the teams finalized preparations, Shoto Todoroki approached Izuku. His expression was unreadable. Midoriya. That energy, during the trace. It felt ancient and powerful. His heterochromatic eyes held a question. Is that him? Izuku nodded, meeting Shoto's gaze. Yeah. Rimuru. He's helping. Shoto studied him for a moment, then gave a curt nod. Don't let it consume you. We need you. Both of you. He turned and walked towards his father's team, leaving Izuku touched and slightly unnerved by the unexpected understanding. Uraraka and Ida joined him. Uraraka's eyes were wide with worry. Deku, are you sure you're okay to do this? I have to be, Uraraka, Izuku said, forcing a small smile. We all do. Ida chopped his hand. We will adhere strictly to Aizawa-sensei's directives and ensure your safety, Midoriya. You are an invaluable asset to this mission. Their faith, fragile but present, was a bomb. But the dread remained, coiled tight in Izuku's gut. He could feel it, the pull of the corruption, the whispers of the void emanating from their destination. And he could feel Rimuru's core, a fragile jewel under siege, radiating a grim readiness for battle. The descent into the Nishitani plant was a plunge into hell. The air grew thick and acrid, tasting of ozone, burnt metal, and something deeply wrong, like decay and static mixed together. Strange, shifting lights pulsed through grimy service tunnels. The ground vibrated with a low, unsettling hum that resonated in their bones. Walls occasionally shimmered, revealing glimpses of alien landscapes, swirling nebulas, jagged crystal forests, a sea of molten glass, before snapping back to rusted metal. Aizawa led Team Gamma with lethal efficiency, his capture weapon a blur, erasure nullifying the first wave of twisted biomechanical guardians, spider-like things with glowing purple cores and claws that dripped sizzling corrosion. Vlad King's hardening shielded the students from debris and energy spatter. Kirishima and Tetsu smashed through barricades. Kaminari short-circuited security grids. Jiro listened intently, her earlobes plugged into the walls. Weird vibrations, like screaming, but not human. And machinery huge, deep below. Izuku walked slightly apart, guided by Rimuru's amplified magic sense. His eyes glowed faintly blue-green as he scanned the environment. Contamination levels rising exponentially. Sector 7B, left tunnel. Microbreach forming. Unstable. Recommend immediate sealing by Cementos or equivalent. He relayed the information, and Yaoyorozu swiftly created a high-density polymer sealant grenade, lobbing it down the indicated tunnel where the air was beginning to tear. The grenade exploded, not with fire, but with rapidly expanding foam that hardened instantly, sealing the nascent rift with a muffled thump. Well executed, Rimuru noted. Contamination spike. Neutralized. Proceed with caution. Biosignatures ahead, human, stressed. Non-combatants? Aizawa-sensei. People trapped. Behind that collapsed conduit. Izuku pointed. Sure enough, faint whimpers came from behind a tangle of pipes and rubble. Eureka, Azui. Extraction. Aizawa barked, his eyes scanning the shadows. The rest, defensive perimeter. Midoriya, scan for hostiles. As Uraraka floated debris and Tsu darted in to pull out two terrified plant workers, Izuku focused. Magic sense detects ambush. Upper gantry. 3 biomechanical units, energy cannons charging. Above. Izuku yelled. Aizawa's head snapped up, erasure flaring red. The 3 insectoid constructs perched on the gantry froze, their glowing cannons flickering out. Before they could react, Shoto unleashed a wave of ice, encasing them solid. Kirishima smashed the frozen blocks to shards. Good catch, Midoriya, Aizawa grunted, his eyes still scanning. Keep it up. They moved deeper, the contamination becoming a physical pressure. The air shimmered constantly. Strange, whispering voices seemed to echo from the walls, causing shivers down spines. Izuku felt the fractures in Rimuru's core throb in sync with the pulsing corruption. Dangerous levels, Rimuru warned. Core integrity fluctuating between 72 to 68%. Recommend minimizing exposure time. Primary device signature is close and heavily guarded. They rounded a corner into a vast, cavernous chamber, the heart of the old geothermal plant. But it had been transformed. The center was dominated by a monstrous machine, a pulsating tangle of organic-looking conduits, crystalline growths, and humming technological components, all centered around a swirling vortex of purple-green energy that crackled like captive lightning. Standing before it, manipulating holographic controls with a detached air, was a figure in a stained lab coat, his face obscured by a respirator helmet. Dr. Kyudai Garaki. Around him, guarding access points, were hulking Nomu, newer, stranger models, their flesh shimmering with the same dimensional energy. And standing casually on a gantry overlooking the chaos, a cruel smile visible even from a distance, was Tamura Shigaraki. His eyes, however, weren't fixed on the machine or the arriving heroes. They were locked directly onto Izuku Midoriya. Ah, Shigaraki's voice, amplified and distorted by the chamber's acoustics, echoed down. The main course finally arrives. Took you long enough, Brett. We sensed you poking around. That little trace. He scratched his neck idly. Sensei will be very interested in the corruption festering inside you. That power, it's not just broken anymore, is it? It's become something deliciously wrong. Aizawa stepped forward, capture weapon ready, erasure active. Shigaraki. This ends now. Shigaraki ignored him, his gaze burning into Izuku. He wants you, Deku. Not just the power anymore. He wants the thing you've become. A key or a weapon. Maybe both. He raised a hand, all 5 fingers extended. Come quietly, and maybe your friends don't dissolve into pretty dust right now. Izuku froze, terror warring with fury. Rimuru's presence flared, cold and predatory. Targeting hostile leader. Threat assessment. extreme caution. Before Rimuru could finish, before Aizawa could move, Shigaraki moved with terrifying speed. Not towards the heroes. Not towards the machine. He dropped from the gantry, plummeting towards the chamber floor, his hand outstretched, decay swirling around his fingers like a visible miasma. His target wasn't the heroes. It wasn't even Izuku directly. He landed with a thud, his decay-spreading hand slamming down onto a thick power conduit feeding the dimensional machine. Crunch. The conduit didn't just break, it disintegrated in an instant, collapsing into a pile of gray ash. The effect was instantaneous. The machine's hum became a shriek. The swirling vortex flared violently, lashing out with tendrils of chaotic energy. Alarms blared. Garaki yelled, frantically trying to stabilize the controls. The containment field around the main vortex flickered and failed. A wave of pure, destabilizing dimensional energy erupted outwards, not as a beam, but as a shockwave of wrongness. Heroes and students alike were thrown back. Walls rippled and dissolved into swirling portals to chaotic vistas. The air screamed. Nomu roared as the energy washed over them, some mutating further, others collapsing into ash. Izuku felt it hit him like a physical blow. It wasn't pain, it was violation. The invasive purple-green energy flooded his senses, seeping into his very cells. Rimuru's core flared bright blue-green in desperate defense, but the fractures screamed. He felt his skin ripple, his bones ache with the threat of dissolution. He saw flashes of the chaotic dimensions through Rimuru's senses, endless storms, screaming voids, predatory entities drawn to the rupture. Core breach imminent. Rimuru's mental voice was a raw scream of warning and agony. Energy overload. Fusion matrix call-up. The warning cut off as the wave hit its peak. Izuku doubled over, gasping. When he looked up, his eyes weren't just glowing. They were pools of incandescent blue-green light, radiating power and ancient fury. His body straightened, movements losing their human awkwardness, gaining a terrifying, liquid grace. The air crackled around him, thick with ozone and raw spatial power. Shigaraki grinned, wide and manic, through the chaos. There it is. The real you. Come on, monster. Show me what you've got. Across the chamber, All Might, struggling to his feet amidst the dimensional storm, saw the transformation. His blood ran cold. Young Midoriya. Fight it. But the figure that turned towards Shigaraki, power radiating in visible waves, didn't look like Izuku Midoriya anymore. It looked like a vessel filled with the wrath of a displaced demon lord, standing at the epicenter of a world tearing itself apart. The battle for survival had just become infinitely more complicated. The battle for Izuku's soul had begun. Chapter 8, Fusion State, Tempest 1. The wave of pure dimensional chaos hit Izuku like a physical god hammer. It wasn't pain, it was the universe vomiting into his soul. His bones screamed with the threat of dissolution. His nerves shrieked with alien static. His vision fragmented, showing glimpses of screaming voids, crystallizing landscapes, and predatory entities drawn to the rupture. Through the sensory overload, Rimuru's mental voice was a raw, agonized shriek, core breach imminent. Energy. Overload. Fusion matrix call-up. The scream cut off as the wave peaked. Izuku felt a terrifying detachment. His consciousness didn't fade, it was shoved aside, compressed into a corner of his own mind, a terrified observer. His body straightened with unnatural, liquid grace. The trembling ceased, replaced by a terrifying stillness. When his eyes opened, they weren't Izuku's wide, green, and fearful orbs. They were pools of incandescent blue-green light, radiating ancient fury and cold, analytical power. The air crackled around him, thick with ozone and the palpable strain of contained spatial forces. His form seemed to blur at the edges, faint blue-green luminescence wisping off him like steam. There it is. Shigaraki's manic grin widened, visible even through the swirling chaos of dissolving matter and warped reality. The real you. Come on, monster. Show me what you've got. He lunged, decay swirling around his outstretched hand, not towards the figure, but towards another critical conduit feeding the shrieking machine. Young Midoriya. Fight it. All Might's bellow cut through the din, raw with fear and desperation. He struggled against the chaotic energy wave, his weakened form battered. The figure that was Rimuru in Izuku turned its head. The movement was unnervingly smooth, devoid of human hesitation. Those burning blue-green eyes locked onto Shigaraki. A voice resonated, layered, Izuku's vocal cords producing sounds, but the timbre, the inflection, the sheer weight belonged to Rimuru. Target designation, Tamura Shigaraki. Primary threat vector, decay quirk. Secondary threat, dimensional destabilization device. Threat level, critical. Elimination protocol, engaged. Rimuru moved. Not with OFA's explosive bursts, but with terrifying, fluid efficiency. He didn't run, he flowed. The chaotic dimensional energy washing through the chamber seemed to part around him, absorbed or deflected by the blue-green aura. Shigaraki's decaying hand met only empty air where the conduit had been as Rimuru materialized between him and his target. Rimuru's own hand shot out, palm open, not to strike, but to contain. A sphere of shimmering, translucent blue-green energy, complex geometric patterns swirling within it, snapped into existence around Shigaraki's decaying hand just as it made contact with the conduit. Crunch sizzle. The decay energy hit the barrier and dissipated violently, unable to penetrate the spatial isolation field. The conduit remained intact, though scorched. Shigaraki snarled, recoiling. The annoying barrier. He lashed out with his other hand, decay swirling, aiming for Rimuru's torso. Rimuru didn't dodge. He shifted. His torso liquefied where Shigaraki's fingers grazed, the decaying energy passing harmlessly through the momentarily amorphous slime before he snapped back to solidity. Simultaneously, his other hand blurred. Tendrils of dark energy, crackling with contained violence and sheathed in the same shimmering blue-green light as the barrier, erupted from his fist, predator whips, perfected. Fwah, fwah. The reinforced whips struck Shigaraki's shoulders, not to cut, but to bind. The blue-green energy hardened instantly on contact, forming crackling energy manacles that pinned Shigaraki's arms to his sides. He roared, straining against the bindings, decay flaring uselessly against the non-physical energy field. Izuku. Rimuru's voice, no longer screaming, but sharp and focused, echoed within their shared mindscape. Stabilization is temporary. The core fracture is critical. We require a unified output to neutralize the device. Consent to full synchronization. Now, Izuku, the terrified observer within, saw the chaos. Garaki frantically trying to reroute power as the machine shrieked, tendrils of chaotic energy lashing out and opening microportals to nightmarish vistas. Nomu mutating or dissolving, heroes struggling, All Might fighting his way towards them, his face a mask of anguish. He saw the burning blue-green eyes in the reflection of a warped metal panel. He felt Rimuru's immense power, his ancient battle calculus, his cold fury at the violation of reality itself. And he felt the terrifying fragility of their fused core, a cracked diamond under unbearable pressure. Do it. Izuku screamed back mentally, pouring every ounce of his will, his desperate need to save everyone, into the plea. Just stop the machine. Save them. Acknowledgement. Initiating fusion state. Tempest 1. The blue-green aura surrounding Rimuru Izuku flared violently, then imploded inward. For a split second, his form became pure, blinding light. When it faded, Izuku stood transformed. He was still recognizably Deku, clad in his tattered green costume, but overlaid with armor that seemed forged from solidified moonlight and captured nebulas. Smooth, iridescent blue-green plates covered his vital points, flowing seamlessly like liquid metal hardened into elegant, organic shapes. His hair crackled with static, strands seeming to shift between green and blue. His eyes were the most striking human irises remained, filled with Izuku's fierce determination, but they blazed with the same intense blue-green light, now containing flecks of familiar emerald green. Power radiated from him in visible waves, a harmonious blend of One for All's golden lightning and Rimuru's cool spatial energy, swirling together like intertwined serpents. Targeting primary destabilization device. The voice that emerged was a perfect blend, Izuku's earnest tone underpinned by Rimuru's ancient resonance. Engaging. Tempest 1 moved. He didn't vanish, he displaced. One moment he was before Shigaraki, the next he was inside the swirling vortex of chaotic energy surrounding the machine. The dimensional storm raged around him, tearing at reality, but the Tempest armor absorbed, deflected, and harmonized the energy. Garaki shrieked, stumbling back as the fused entity landed lightly on the central console. Analysis complete. Tempest 1 stated, a hand resting on the machine's core, a pulsating orb of corrupted energy. Energy signature, malignant dimensional convergence. Containment breach, 98%. Solution, forced harmonic resonance followed by spatial collapse. No! Garaki screeched, lunging with a syringe filled with glowing liquid. My life's work. Tempest 1 didn't even turn. A flick of his wrist sent a predator whip lashing out, not to strike Garaki, but to encase him in a shimmering, soundproof energy bubble that floated harmlessly away. His focus remained on the machine. He raised both hands above the pulsing core. In his left, golden lightning coalesced, humming with the raw, inherited power of heroes. In his right, swirling blue-green spatial energy gathered, intricate patterns forming like constellations. He brought his hands together. Harmonize. The conflicting energies didn't clash, they merged. The golden lightning threaded through the blue-green patterns, creating a vortex of blinding white light shot through with iridescent streaks. He slammed his fused palms down onto the machine's core. Boom! A shockwave of pure, harmonious energy erupted, not destructive, but corrective. It washed over the machine. The shrieking stopped. The chaotic vortex imploded in on itself with a sound like a sigh. The lashing energy tendrils snapped back like severed wires. The microportals flickered and winked out. The machine didn't explode, it deactivated, its lights dying, its organic components withering instantly, the crystalline structures frosting over and cracking silently. The immediate dimensional storm ceased. Silence descended, thick and stunned, broken only by ragged breathing and the groans of the wounded. Tempest 1 stood tall amidst the wreckage of the machine, power still radiating from him, the Tempest armor glowing softly. He turned, his dual-colored eyes scanning the chamber. They found Shigaraki, who had finally shattered the predator whip bindings, his face contorted in rage and something else. Hunger? Shigaraki rasped, taking a step forward, decay swirling wildly around him. That power, it's not his anymore, is it? It's not even yours alone. It's something new. Something Sensei never dreamed of. His eyes gleamed with manic obsession. I'll take it. I'll decay everything but that core. He launched himself at Tempest 1, a whirlwind of destruction, all 5 fingers extended. Threat re-engaged, Rimuru's tactical voice noted within the fusion. Proposing lethal countermeasures, spatial severance at molecular level. Izuku's will surged forward, dominant within their shared control. We don't kill. Contain. Restrain. The internal conflict was instantaneous. Rimuru's ancient instincts, forged in wars against existential threats, screamed for decisive, permanent removal. Izuku's unwavering heroism demanded restraint, even against this monster. The Tempest armor flickered violently. Shigaraki was upon them, decay-laden hand inches from the glowing chest plate. Tempest 1 moved. Not with Rimuru's lethal precision, nor solely with Izuku's desperate speed. It was a fusion of both. He flowed under Shigaraki's grasp, the decay passing through momentarily liquefied armor. Simultaneously, his hand shot out, not with predator whips, but crackling with pure OFA energy amplified by spatial compression, one for all, spatial impact. His fist didn't make contact. It stopped an inch from Shigaraki's chest. The air rippled. Space itself compressed violently at the focal point. Shigaraki was hurled backwards not by kinetic force alone, but by the localized warping of reality around him. He smashed through a support pillar and slammed into the far wall, cratering the reinforced metal, dust and debris raining down. He slumped, groaning, momentarily stunned, decay flickering out. Tempest 1 lowered his fist, the compressed space snapping back to normal with a soft pop. He took a shuddering breath, the intense glow in his eyes dimming slightly, the green flecks becoming more prominent. Lethality, unnecessary. Containment, achieved. The voice was more Izuku now, layered with Rimuru's fatigue. The effort cost them. The cracks in Rimuru's core, temporarily held by the fusion's harmony, groaned under the strain of the immense power output and the internal conflict. The Tempest armor flickered erratically. Izuku felt a wave of profound exhaustion and a terrifying pull towards formlessness. Deku! Uraraka's cry came from across the chamber. Shiida, Todoroki, and others were fighting off the last mutated Nomu, their eyes wide with awe and fear as they looked at him. Young Midoriya. All Might was suddenly there, battered but standing tall beside him, his hand hovering, unsure whether to touch the shimmering armor. Can you hear me? Tempest 1 turned his head. The blue-green light in his eyes softened as he met All Might's gaze. The armor began to dissolve, not violently, but like mist evaporating under the sun. The iridescent plates faded into wisps of blue-green light that were absorbed back into Izuku's body. The intense aura receded. The blazing light in his eyes dimmed, leaving Izuku's familiar green, now filled with exhaustion, pain, and lingering shock. He swayed. Stopped it? Izuku gasped, his voice his own again, rough and trembling. The machine. He pitched forward. All Might caught him before he hit the ground, cradling his successor gently. Izuku's eyes fluttered shut, unconsciousness claiming him. The fusion state was over, leaving behind a broken machine, a defeated villain, a sealed rift, and a hero forever changed. All Might looked down at the boy in his arms, then at the devastation around them, the sealed machine, the groaning Shigaraki being bound by Edgeshot's threads. He saw the faintest blue-green sheen still fading from Izuku's skin. The symbol of peace felt the weight of a new era pressing down, one forged in chaotic fusion, but also in the unwavering heart of a hero who had faced the abyss within and chosen the light. The path of the slime hero had begun. Chapter 9. Rift sealed but not closed. Silence. Thick, heavy, and profoundly unnatural after the cacophony of warped reality. Dust motes danced in the S of emergency lighting piercing the cavernous ruin of the geothermal plant. The monstrous machine, once a pulsating heart of chaos, lay inert, a skeletal husk of frosted conduits, withered organic components, and shattered crystal. The oppressive hum of dimensional corruption was gone, replaced by the groans of strained metal settling and the ragged breaths of survivors. The air still tasted of ozone and burnt wrongness, but the tearing pressure had ceased. At the center of the devastation, All Might cradled Izuku Midoriya. The iridescent glow of the Tempest armor had faded entirely, leaving the boy limp, pale, and frighteningly small in the symbol of peace's arms. Faint blue-green wisps seemed to seep from his skin before vanishing, the only lingering sign of the impossible fusion. His breathing was shallow, his eyelids fluttering weakly. Young Midoriya? All Might whispered, his voice raw with fear that cut through his usual booming confidence. He gently brushed sweat-slicked green hair from Izuku's forehead. Can you hear me? Izuku's eyes opened a sliver. They were his own eyes again, deep green, filled with exhaustion and disorientation, but clear of the ancient blue light. He focused blearily on All Might's gaunt face. All Might? He rasped, his voice barely audible. Did we? You did it, my boy, All Might said, relief washing over him like a physical wave, tightening his grip. You stopped it. The machine is dead. The rift it sealed. Across the chamber, pro-heroes were moving with grim efficiency. Edgeshot's threads bound the unconscious Shigaraki in layers of reinforced restraint, his decay quirk suppressed by specialized cuffs. Best genus fibers immobilized the stunned Dr. Garaki inside his own energy bubble. Mirko was checking fallen Nomo for signs of life, her expression hard. Ryukyu, back in human form, directed Recovery Girl towards injured heroes and the rescued plant workers. Endeavor stood near the dead machine, flames guttering low, staring at the spot where the vortex had been, a rare look of contemplative shock on his scarred face. Aizawa and Vlad King herded the students together. Uraraka was trembling, tears esternged the grime on her face. Ida stood rigid, his engine silent but his fists clenched. Todoroki's heterochromatic gaze was fixed on the unconscious Izuku in All Might's arms, his expression unreadable. Kirishima looked shaken but fiercely protective. The sight of their classmate, glowing with alien power, battling a force of nature, then collapsing like a puppet with cut strings, had left an indelible mark. Izuku. Rimuru's voice echoed within their shared mindscape, weak but present, a flickering ember compared to its usual steady flame. Core integrity stabilizing at 32%. Fractures sealed temporarily. The backlash was severe. Rest is imperative. Rimuru. Izuku thought back, a surge of relief mixing with concern. You're okay. What happened? It felt like I was drowning. We pushed the fusion beyond its current limits, Rimuru explained, his mental voice laced with fatigue and residual pain. Harmonizing the spatial collapse with One for All's raw power, it taxed the core matrix to near breaking. The seal on the primary rift is stable, but crude. Like cauterizing a wound. It stopped the bleeding, but the underlying damage to the dimensional boundary remains. Before Izuku could process this, Recovery Girl arrived, her small frame radiating authority despite the chaos. She pushed past All Might, her cane tapping impatiently on the debris-strewn floor. Move aside, Tashinori. Let me see him. She placed a hand on Izuku's forehead, then his chest, her expression tightening. Severe energetic depletion. Cellular trauma consistent with extreme overload. Core temperature fluctuating, and this residual spatial resonance clinging to his biosignature. She shot a sharp look at All Might. What exactly did he channel? Something necessary, All Might said gravely, meeting her gaze. Something that saved us all. But the cost, he looked down at Izuku's pale face. Cost indeed, Recovery Girl muttered, pulling out a large, specialized syringe filled with a glowing green solution. This will stabilize his energy pathways and promote cellular repair. It won't fix that, she gestured vaguely at Izuku, indicating the lingering fusion, but it'll keep him from falling apart right now. She administered the injection. Izuku sighed, a hint of color returning to his cheeks as the restorative wave flowed through him, guided subtly by Rimuru's own weakened regenerative instincts. He needs the infirmary. Now, Recovery Girl stated. And absolute rest. No arguments. As All Might carefully lifted Izuku, cradling him protectively, Nizu scurried over, his usual cheer replaced by focused intensity. The immediate threat is neutralized, thanks to Midoriya-kun's extraordinary intervention. However, my sensors confirm Rimuru-san's assessment. The dimensional boundary in this location is critically weakened. Residual energy signatures are still high. We've contained the breach, not healed it. The villain's work, it has left scars on reality itself. Endeavor stepped forward, his flames extinguished, his gaze fixed on Izuku. That power he wielded, that fusion state. It wasn't just One for All. It was something else. Something alien. Is it contained within him? Or is he contained by it? His voice held no malice, only a harsh, pragmatic concern. All Might's grip tightened. He is Midoriya Izuku, he stated, his voice regaining some of its old strength, resonating with conviction. He fought to save everyone here. He chose to use that power, however terrifying, to protect. What resides within him now is a partner, not a prisoner. Rimuru Tempest saved this world as much as young Midoriya did. A ripple of surprise went through the gathered heroes. Hearing the name, the title, Great Demon Lord, spoken so openly by All Might, was jarring. A demon lord? Ryukyu echoed, frowning. From another dimension? Fused with One for All? All Might, the implications are unprecedented and complex, Nizu interjected smoothly, and will be addressed. But not here. Not now. Our priority is securing the villains, evacuating the wounded, and establishing a quarantine perimeter around this site. The dimensional instability makes it hazardous. All Might, take Midoriya-kun to the infirmary. We will convene a full debriefing at UA once the situation is stabilized. As All Might carried Izuku away, flanked by Recovery Girl, the students watched them go. Uraraka wiped her tears, a determined light replacing the fear in her eyes. He's still Deku, she said firmly, mostly to herself. Ida nodded stiffly. Kirishima grinned, though it was strained. Yeah. Glowy or not, he kicked serious villain butt. Todoroki remained silent, his gaze lingering on the sealed machine, then on the spot where Izuku had stood as Tempest One. Bakugo, uncharacteristically quiet amidst the chaos, leaned against a broken console, his crimson eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in deep, unsettled thought. UA Infirmary, hours later. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the infirmary, a stark contrast to the hellish underground chamber. Izuku lay propped up in bed, looking significantly better but still pale and exhausted. The deep bone weariness was slowly receding, replaced by a profound ache and the constant, low hum of Rimuru's presence, a comforting, if fragile, anchor. All Might sat beside him, no longer in his hero form, just Toshinori Yagi, looking equally drained but radiating quiet pride. He held a cup of tea, untouched. The doctors confirm what Recovery Girl suspected, he said softly. Severe energetic exhaustion, but no permanent physical damage. The acellular instability Rimuru-san warned about has subsided for now. You gave us quite the scare, young Midoriya. Izuku managed a weak smile. Sorry, All Might. I didn't mean to pass out like that. After what you accomplished, passing out was practically mandatory. All Might chuckled, the sound rough but warm. His expression sobered. Nizu is coordinating with Tartarus for Shigaraki and Garaki's transfer. The League's base in the plant is being dismantled. The immediate threat is over, largely thanks to you. And Rimuru-san. Acknowledged, Rimuru's voice resonated, clearer now but still carrying an undertone of strain. However, All Might Yagi's summary requires amendment. The primary rift is sealed, but the dimensional boundary remains critically compromised. Residual microtears are still forming sporadically across the city, though at a reduced rate. The multiverse is wounded. Izuku relayed Rimuru's words. All Might nodded grimly. Nizu's sensors detected the same. It's like patching a dam with cracks still springing leaks. The energy signature, it's fading but slowly. The world isn't out of danger yet. So, what do we do? Izuku asked, the weight of the ongoing threat settling back onto his shoulders. We adapt, All Might said firmly. We monitor. We research. UA, the Hero Commission, scientists worldwide, they're all focused on understanding this new threat. And you, young Midoriya, you and Rimuru-san are at the center of it. He leaned forward, his blue eyes intense. That power you wielded, Tempest One. It was terrifying, beautiful, utterly unique. It was the fusion not just of two beings, but of two worlds of power. It saved us all. But it also showed the fragility of the bond holding you together. Izuku looked down at his hands. They looked normal, but he could still feel the echo of liquid strength, the hum of spatial awareness beneath his skin. Felt thread All Might? When we were working together, truly together, to seal the rift. It wasn't him taking over, or me pushing him down. It was us. One will. And that, All Might said, a genuine smile touching his lips, is the key. That harmony. That choice. Rimuru-san possesses immense power and ancient instincts. You possess the unwavering heart and spirit of a hero. Together, you faced annihilation and chose creation. You chose to protect. He placed a large, gentle hand on Izuku's shoulder. That choice, young Midoriya, is what defines a hero. Not the origin of their power, but the purpose to which they wield it. He stood up, his frame seeming to regain a fraction of its old, imposing stature despite his frailty. Nana Shimura heard whispers. I carried the weight of 8 souls. You carry an entire legacy and an interdimensional consciousness. One for all has evolved. It has become something new, something forged in the crucible of chaos. And it chose you, Izuku Midoriya, not despite the fusion, but perhaps because of the unique strength it grants you. All Might's gaze held Izuku's, unwavering. I passed you the torch believing you would carry the legacy of One for All forward. Now, I see I passed it to someone who would transform that legacy. The path of the symbol of peace, it was mine. Your path, he gestured to Izuku, encompassing the invisible presence of Rimuru within him. This is yours to walk. The path of the slime hero. And I have never been more certain that the future is in capable hands. Tears welled in Izuku's eyes, blurring his vision. The fear of rejection, the terror of being seen as a monster, the crushing weight of the secret, it dissolved under the sheer force of All Might's unwavering belief. Not just in him, but in them. In the fusion. In the potential born from chaos. All Might. Words failed him. Gratitude, Rimuru's voice echoed, filled with a depth of respect that transcended his usual analytical tone. Your trust is not misplaced. We will protect this world. Together. We will, All Might, Izuku choked out, finding his voice. I promise. We'll get stronger. We'll learn to control it. We'll protect everyone. All Might smiled, the symbol of peace's smile, warm and full of hope. I know you will, my boy. Now rest. You've earned it. The real work begins tomorrow. He gave Izuku's shoulder a final squeeze and turned to leave, pausing at the door. Oh, and young Midoriya? Welcome to the next level. He winked, a flash of his old self, before stepping out. Izuku sank back against the pillows, emotionally drained but lighter than he'd felt in months. The secret was fully out, embraced by the person whose opinion mattered most. The immediate threat was over. Rimuru was stable, a partner, not a prisoner. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, mastering the fusion, healing the dimensional wounds, facing the world's fear and curiosity, but he wasn't alone. He had Rimuru. He had All Might's unwavering faith. He had his friends, however wary they might be initially. Core integrity holding at 35%, Rimuru reported. Regeneration active. Focus now should be on biological recovery for the host. The dimensional scars, they will require a different kind of healing. But for now, rest, Izuku Midoriya. We have weathered the storm. Izuku closed his eyes, a sense of profound peace washing over him despite the lingering aches. He drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, the first truly restful sleep since the day on Dagoba Beach. 1 week later, Dagoba Beach. Sunset painted the sky in familiar shades of orange and red over the now partially cleaned Dagoba Beach. The massive piles of junk seemed less oppressive, the air cleaner. Izuku stood on the packed sand, not in his gym clothes, but in a simple tracksuit. All Might stood beside him, leaning on a cane, looking frail but content. No power transfer hung in the air this time. No desperate training. Just two people, mentor and successor, sharing the quiet. They're calling it the Nishitani incident, All Might said, breaking the comfortable silence. Officially, Shigaraki and a rogue scientist attempted a catastrophic energy experiment. Contained thanks to the coordinated efforts of pro-heroes and UA students. He glanced at Izuku. Your role, and Rimuru-san's, is classified. Nizu's doing. Top-level secret. The world isn't ready for interdimensional demon lords fused with hero students. Izuku nodded. He understood the necessity. The fear, the panic, the potential for witch hunts, it was too great. Do the others? Uraraka? Ida? They know you did something extraordinary, something involving that mutation, All Might said. They saw enough. Aizawa and Nizu have briefed them on the need for absolute secrecy regarding the specifics. They're your friends, young Midoriya. They're worried, yes, but they stand by you. Bakugo, All Might sighed, is processing. In his own explosive way. Give him time. Izuku looked out at the waves. He could feel Rimuru's presence, a calm, watchful hum within him. He flexed his hand. Not with OFA, but with a subtle internal focus. His fingertips shimmered faintly blue-green for a split second, solidifying instantly. Control. Tiny, hard-won control. Nizu said the micro-tears are still appearing? Less frequently, All Might confirmed. But yes, like aftershocks. Recovery Girl and the scientists are working with Rimuru-san's data on dimensional energies, trying to find a way to strengthen the boundary permanently. It's a global effort now. Quiet but relentless. He placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. Your part in this isn't over, young Midoriya. But it's different now. You're not hiding. You're learning. With guidance. Izuku smiled. Guidance. From Rimuru. From All Might. From Aizawa, who had gruffly informed him that his special condition required special containment training starting next week, focusing on control, stealth, and the ethical application of abilities that could dissolve a tank. It wasn't the conventional hero path, but it was his path. I'm ready, All Might, Izuku said, his voice firm. We're ready. All Might smiled, the setting sun catching the pride in his eyes. I know you are. He looked out at the horizon. The symbol of peace was a beacon. What you become, Izuku, it will be something else. Something adaptable. Something that can face threats from beyond the boundaries of our world. The slime hero. He chuckled softly. Has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? Before Izuku could respond, Rimuru's voice cut in, sharp and alert. Izuku. Magic sense anomaly. High altitude. Bearing 270 degrees. Energy signature, familiar. Dragon type. Powerful. Concealed by advanced spatial stealth. Izuku's head snapped up, following Rimuru's internal direction. He scanned the darkening sky where the sun had just dipped below the horizon. His eyes, subtly enhanced, pierced the gloaming. High above, almost invisible against the deepening purple, was a distortion. Not a bird, not a plane. A sleek, serpentine shape, scales the color of twilight, momentarily visible as it banked. Wings, vast and silent, caught the last dying embers of sunlight. And for a fleeting second, Izuku felt the weight of an ancient, intelligent gaze focused directly on him. Veldora. Rimuru's mental voice was a shockwave of disbelief and sudden, overwhelming hope. But how's? The dimensional pathways are fractured. The dragon shape banked again, diving towards the distant, glittering skyline of Mizudafu, vanishing into the urban sprawl as quickly as it had appeared. No sonic boom. No disturbance. Just a silent, impossible shadow passing over the city. Izuku stared, heart pounding. All Might, did you see? All Might followed his gaze, squinting. See what, young Midoriya? A bird. Izuku looked back at the empty sky, then at All Might's puzzled expression. He felt Rimuru's stunned silence, the frantic calculations beginning within their shared mind. The rift was sealed. The immediate threat was over. But the walls between worlds were thin, dangerously thin. And now, something, or someone, from Rimuru's world had found a way through. Nothing, All Might, Izuku said, forcing a calm he didn't feel. He turned back to the ocean, the peaceful sunset scene now charged with a new, unsettling tension. Just thought I saw something. Probably nothing. He met All Might's eyes, his own reflecting the fading light and the dawning realization of a far more complicated future. Let's head back. The path of the slime hero had begun. But the journey was far from over. The multiverse was wounded, fragile, and full of unseen eyes. And one of them, belonging to a storm dragon, had just found its lost friend. Chapter 10. A Slime Hero's Path. The rhythmic scritch-scratch of Izuku's pencil filled the quiet dorm room, a familiar counterpoint to the hum of distant UA life and the silent, watchful presence within his mind. His latest hero analysis notebook lay open, filled not just with sketches of pros and classmates, but with intricate diagrams of swirling golden and blue-green energy patterns, notes on cellular regeneration rates, and complex equations attempting to model spatial resonance. At the top of the page, written in his usual earnest scrawl but with a new, underlying certainty, was the title, Quirk Manifestation Analysis and Control Protocols, one for all Tempest fusion. Observing, neural pathways show increased plasticity post-fusion event. Rimuru's voice resonated, calm and analytical. Cognitive processing speed during analytical tasks has increased by approximately 18.7%. Hypothesis. Synergistic effect of OFA enhanced neural capacity and my computational abilities via Great Sage subroutines. The pause. Suggestion: consider cross-referencing page 47 with Recovery Girl's latest biosignature report on cellular elasticity. Potential correlation noted. Izuku nodded, flipping pages. Thanks, Rimuru. I was just thinking that. The way the slime essence integrates at a molecular level during stress response, it's not just healing, it's active adaptation. He tapped a diagram showing human cells subtly shifting structure under blue-green influence. It's like optimized reinforcement. Preemptive. Accurate, Rimuru affirmed. The fusion has unlocked latent potential within OFA's core function, not just stockpiling power, but dynamically optimizing the host vessel. My predator-derived skills, particularly analyze and assess and mimicry, synergize with this, allowing for near-instantaneous biological adjustments to environmental threats or power strain. The glitching was a symptom of uncontrolled manifestation. Now it is becoming a controlled toolkit. The past month had been a whirlwind of controlled chaos. The Nishitani incident was officially closed, Shigaraki and Garaki locked. In Tartarus's deepest, most quirk-suppressing cells. The world breathed a sigh of relief, unaware of the fragile scars still weeping chaotic energy beneath the surface of reality. For Izuku, the battle had shifted inward and onto UA's specialized training grounds. No longer hiding but learning. Mastering the impossible fusion he embodied. His door slid open with a soft hiss. Izawa Shota stood there, capture weapon loosely draped, his usual tired gaze sharp and assessing. Midoriya. Jim dealt. 10 minutes. No hero costume. Training gear only. Izuku snapped the notebook shut, a flicker of nervous energy mixing with anticipation. Yes, sensei. Jim Delta wasn't for flashy super moves. It was a labyrinthine complex of shifting walls, pressure plates, laser grids, and sensory dampeners, Aizawa's personal playground for teaching the art of the unseen hero. Stealth, evasion, information gathering, and non-lethal containment. Skills Deku, the inheritor of All Might's blinding legacy, had never truly focused on. Skills the slime hero desperately needed. Understood, Aizawa Shota, Rimuru noted internally. Preparing tactical subroutines, magic sense refinement, stealth protocol optimization, spatial awareness enhancement. Objective: minimize signature during evasion drills. Aizawa's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. He couldn't hear Rimuru, but years of honed instinct told him when his student was consulting. Try not to dissolve the laser emitters this time, problem child. Or turn the floor into pudding. Budgets are tight. Izuku flushed. Wife, sensei. Working on containment. Recall, Incident 3, Delta, minor floor liquefaction during unexpected trapdoor activation. Stress response. Suppression protocols have improved 42% since then, Rimuru supplied helpfully. Izuku just nodded, grabbing his training gear. The path of the symbol of peace had been a beacon. His path, as All Might had said, was something else. Adaptable. Unseen when necessary. A hero who could walk through walls, sense danger before it manifested, contain a threat without a single punch, or hit with the force of a tempest if required. He was learning to be the shadow and the storm. Jim Delta lived up to its reputation. One moment, Izuku was navigating a narrow corridor lined with pressure-sensitive plates. The next, the walls slammed shut, ceiling vents hissed sleeping gas, and floor panels vanished, revealing a pit of, simulated, sticky foam below. Pre-Nishitani Izuku would have panicked, maybe triggered OFA and smashed through a wall. Pre-Nishitani Izuku wouldn't have stood a chance. Now, Izuku moved. But not with explosive speed. He flowed. Guided by Rimuru's enhanced magic sense, he perceived the trap milliseconds before activation. His right foot, about to land on a pressure plate, liquefied slightly, spreading weightlessly over the trigger point without activating it. As the walls rushed in, his body didn't brace, it yielded. He became momentarily amorphous, slipping through the narrowing gap like water through fingers, reforming on the other side just as the gas jets fired harmlessly above him. The vanishing floor panels? He simply flowed across the gap, a shimmering blue-green streak that solidified safely on the far ledge. Execution: optimal, Rimuru assessed. Energy expenditure: minimal. Spatial awareness: 98% accuracy. Containment maintained throughout. From an observation booth high above, Izawa watched, his expression unreadable. Beside him, All Might, out of his muscle form, leaned forward intently. Remarkable, All Might murmured. It's not just dodging. It's becoming the environment. Anticipating it. Adaptation, Izawa stated flatly. His quirk, the fusion, rewrote his instincts. He doesn't just react to threats, he assimilates the parameters and reconfigures himself to bypass them. Efficient. Dangerous if misused. He activated the calm, Midoriya. Next phase. Hostile sensor drones. Activate evasion protocol, Ghost. Lights dimmed further. Small, silent drones, equipped with thermal, motion, and energy signature scanners, emerged from hidden compartments, filling the chamber with a network of searching beams. Izuku took a breath. Rimuru? Engaging stealth protocol, Rimuru confirmed. Damping biological signatures. Minimizing thermal output. Dispersing ambient OFA energy signature. Redirecting spatial resonance. Initiating predictive pathfinding based on drone scan patterns. Izuku didn't just hide. He vanished. Not invisibility, but a near-perfect erasure of his presence. His body temperature dropped to match the ambient air. The faint hum of OFA was swallowed by a localized field of null space generated by Rimuru. His movements became silent, gliding across surfaces, flowing around scan beams with impossible grace, appearing as nothing more than a brief heat haze or a trick of the light to the drones. He moved through their grid like a phantom, unseen, unheard, unfelt. All Might watched, a proud smile touching his lips. He's not just hiding, Izawa. He's learning to control the very essence of what makes him different, turning perceived weakness into unparalleled strength. Izawa grunted. Strength that relies on an interdimensional consciousness sharing his head. Don't get sentimental, All Might. The control is impressive, but the dependency is a vulnerability. One wrong move, one moment of discord. And we have a containment issue, All Might finished, his smile fading slightly. I know. But look at them. They're not master and prisoner. They're partners. Learning from each other. Below, Izuku reached the end of the drone gauntlet, reforming fully visible. He looked up towards the booth, giving a small, determined nod. He wasn't just passing a test. He was proving he could walk this new path. Later that day, Izuku found All Might not on a training field, but on Dagoba Beach. The symbol of peace stood leaning on his cane, gazing out at the ocean where Izuku's journey and the fusion had truly begun. The piles of junk were significantly smaller now, testament to Izuku's earlier efforts and ongoing cleanup projects. Young Midoriya, All Might greeted, his voice warm. Walk with me. They walked in companionable silence for a while, the rhythmic crash of waves a soothing backdrop. The setting sun painted the sky in familiar hues of orange and red, a mirror to that fateful day, yet everything felt different. Control training with Izawa seems to be progressing well, All Might observed. It is, Izuku said, a spark of genuine enthusiasm in his. It's challenging, completely different from anything I imagined. But Rimuru's spatial awareness and analytical abilities, they make things like evasion and stealth feel almost intuitive. And learning to consciously control the slime aspect, to use it for movement, defense, even minor shapeshifting for disguise, it's like unlocking a whole new skill set. He flexed his hand, watching faint blue-green light shimmer across his knuckles before vanishing. Containment is getting easier. Good, All Might said, stopping to look out at the horizon. Because the world needs that skill set now, young Midoriya. More than it perhaps even realizes. His expression grew serious. Nizu's reports, the micro-tears are less frequent, but they haven't stopped. New ones appear randomly, weaker, smaller, but persistent. Like scars that haven't fully healed. And the energy signatures, they're changing. Becoming fainter, harder to trace, but no less dangerous. The multiverse remains fragile. Izuku nodded, feeling Rimuru's quiet agreement. Residual instability is inherent to dimensional trauma. Healing will be measured in decades, perhaps centuries. Vigilance is permanent. We know, Izuku said softly. Rimuru senses it constantly, like a background hum of wrongness. All Might placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. That's why your path is so vital. The symbol of peace was a shield against the darkness people could see. But you, young Midoriya, you can sense the cracks in the walls between worlds. You can move through shadows, contain threats before they fully manifest, understand energies that baffle our scientists. You can fight battles that exist beyond the perception of conventional heroes. He smiled, a proud, weathered smile. You are the guardian of the threshold, Izuku. The first line of defense against threats from beyond the veil. He turned fully to face Izuku, his gaze intense and full of unwavering belief. I passed you one for all believing you would carry on the legacy of strength and hope. I see now that legacy was merely the foundation. You haven't just inherited a power, you've transformed it. You've integrated an entire universe of potential. You faced the chaos within and forged harmony. You chose protection over destruction, understanding over fear. All Might's voice dropped, thick with emotion. I am so proud of the hero you are becoming. Not the next symbol of peace, but the first of something entirely new. The first slime hero. The title hung in the salty air, unexpected yet perfect. It encompassed the fluidity, the adaptability, the hidden strength, and the unique origin. Izuku felt a surge of warmth, of profound acceptance. He wasn't Deku, the broken vessel. He wasn't just All Might's successor. He was Izuku Midoriya, host to Rimuru Tempest, wielder of a fused power unlike any other. He was the slime hero. Thank you, All Might, Izuku said, his voice thick but steady, meeting his mentor's gaze. I won't let you down. We won't let you down. He placed a hand over his chest, feeling the steady hum of the fused core within, a harmony of gold and blue-green. Affirmation, Rimuru resonated, a pulse of shared determination. The path is defined. The duty is clear. We stand as guardians. All Might's smile widened, the setting sun catching the tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. He pulled Izuku into a firm, one-armed hug. I know you won't, my boy. I know. They stood like that for a moment, mentor and successor, past and future, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the waves in fiery gold. The beach, once a place of desperate struggle, felt like a place of peace, a testament to how far they'd come. Izuku, Rimuru's voice cut through the peaceful moment, sharp and alert, devoid of its usual calm analysis, replaced by pure, stunned disbelief. Magic sense anomaly. Extreme high altitude. Bearing 285 degrees. Energy signature off scale. Dragon type. Spatial signature. Rimuru Tempest. Concealment. Master level spatial stealth. Izuku's head snapped up, his peaceful expression shattering. His eyes, subtly enhanced by the fusion, scanned the rapidly darkening sky above the city skyline. Rimuru overlaid his vision with a magic sense filter, piercing the veil of advanced spatial camouflage. High above, silhouetted against the last embers of the sunset and the first stars, was a shape. Sleek, immense, undeniably draconic. Scales the deep, shifting blue of a twilight sky seemed to absorb the dying light. Wings, vast enough to blot out constellations, beat with impossible silence. And as it banked, turning its massive head, a single, intelligent, ancient eye, burning with familiar, stormy power, seemed to lock directly onto Izuku standing on the beach. Veldora! Rimuru's mental voice wasn't just shocked. It was a raw, emotional torrent, disbelief, overwhelming joy, and frantic confusion. But the dimensional pathways, they're shattered. How did he? The dragon, Rimuru Tempest, held the gaze for a fraction of a second longer. Then, with another silent beat of those colossal wings, he banked sharply, diving not towards the beach, but weaving impossibly fast between the towering skyscrapers of Mizutofu, vanishing into the neon-lit urban canyon as completely as a shadow dissolving into night. Izuku stared, frozen, his heart hammering against his ribs. The peaceful resolution shattered, replaced by a chilling wave of exhilaration and profound unease. "All Might," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Did you see that?" All Might followed his gaze, squinting at the now empty twilight sky. "See what, young Midoriya? The particularly large bird? A plane's running lights?" Izuku looked back at the spot where the impossible dragon had been, then at All Might's genuinely puzzled face. He felt Rimuru's stunned silence, the frantic calculations beginning within their shared mindscape, the overwhelming surge of recognition and hope battling with the terrifying implications. The rift was sealed. The immediate threat was over. But the walls between worlds were thin, dangerously thin. And now, someone from Rimuru's world had not only found a way through but had found them. "Nothing, All Might," Izuku said, forcing his voice into a semblance of calm he didn't feel. He turned back to the ocean, the peaceful sunset scene now charged with a new, electrifying tension. The slime on his knuckles shimmered faintly, reacting to his spiking adrenaline. "Just thought I saw a shooting star. Really bright." He met All Might's eyes, his own, reflecting the fading light and the dawning realization of a future far more vast, complex, and unpredictable than he'd ever imagined. "Must have been my imagination. Let's head back." The path of the slime hero was laid before him, accepted and affirmed. But the journey was far from over. The multiverse was wounded, fragile, and teeming with unseen wonders and threats. And one of them, a storm dragon of unimaginable power and a brother to the spirit within him, had just pierced the veil. Rimuru's past wasn't just memories. It was a living, breathing force that had found its way home. As they walked back across the sand, Izuku felt not fear, but a fierce, bubbling anticipation. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.